Marshall Peak, Chapter 57:12, backed into a corner with no escape. Although there were many 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters present, not many of them had cultivated the Tao of Space. In terms of attainment in the Tao of Space, Zhao Yi Bai was undoubtedly the best. Not even Su Yang and Liu Yang, both of whom had Phoenix Clan sources, could compete with Zhao Yi Bai in this regard. Neither of them was of orthodox Phoenix Clan origin after all. Although they had Phoenix Clan sources and even cultivated in the Phoenix Nest for some time, their compatibility with the Grand Tao of Space could not compare to Zhao Yi Bai, who was blessed with natural talent and trained from young. Others might not be able to detect the distortion in the universe furnace's illusory phantom with careful observation, but Zhao Yi Bai could perceive the truth at a glance. More importantly, he had made his point clear. There was no reason for Yang Xiao to distrust those words, so he immediately nodded in understanding and adopted a prudent demeanor. This senior brother understand. Afterwards, he suddenly heard Fu Guang speaking to the crowd. The universe furnace will soon manifest. It will represent a great opportunity for all of you. Seeing as the suppressing Black Ink Army is not involved in any fighting at the moment, I will allow 50 of you to enter the universe furnace to explore. Once the entrance to the universe furnace is fully formed, you may enter immediately. As for how the quota should be distributed, you may discuss and decide among yourselves. 50 spots out of 400 plus 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters might not seem like much, but it was actually the absolute limit. The suppressing Black Ink Army might be at peace for now, but nobody could guarantee when the Black Ink Clan might suddenly launch an attack. The overall strength of the suppressing Black Ink Army would be affected if too many 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters left for the Universe Furnace, which would place them at a disadvantage against the Black Ink Clan's assault. Therefore, after taking everything into consideration, only 58th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters could be allowed to leave. As for the exact candidates to be sent into the Universe Furnace, it was not Fu Guang's place to decide. In the end, the decision could only be left to the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters to discuss and negotiate among themselves. Such an opportunity was something anybody would want to obtain after all. He could only hope that the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters would not ruin their camaraderie with each other over the competition to obtain this opportunity. In the depths of the Black Ink battlefield, due to the sudden turmoil all around the universe, a momentary lapse in strength caused Yang Kai to be struck by Mo Nai's assault. His condition had gotten significantly worse as a result. He did not understand the phenomenon earlier. After all, he had a world tree clone sealing and stabilizing his small universe. How could he be affected by some inexplicable phenomenon which ultimately resulted in his difficult situation right now? Despite coughing up blood, Yang Kai swiftly flew through the void. He was tracing the vague feeling in his heart, which steered him back along his original path. Even now, he did not know the cause of that mysterious calling. He had initially suspected that it was part of the Black Ink Clan's trap, but he quickly realized upon careful consideration. If the Black Ink Clan had such ability, they would have drawn him out with this method in the first place. They would never have allowed him to intercept and hunt down so many innate territory lords, much less be forced to set an ambush and wait for him to fall into their encirclement. Therefore, this phenomenon was clearly not part of the Black Ink Clan's machinations. If it was not part of the Black Ink Clan's schemes though, what did he feel earlier? At a time when his life was hanging by a thread, Yang Kai normally would not have paid any attention to such an inexplicable phenomenon. However, he had a hunch that he might have found the opportunity he needed to overcome his current crisis. That was why he only hesitated for a moment before he unswervingly headed in the direction he was seemingly being summoned. During this period, he was struck by Mo Nai's long-distance attacks on several occasions. The impact caused stars to appear in his vision and his figure to stagger unsteadily. He felt as though he was at the end of his rope. Seeming to realize Yang Kai's current condition, Mo Nai doggedly gave chase. His attacks did not ease up in the slightest and instead became fiercer and fiercer. After all, he was well aware of the principle that a long night brings many dreams. Against an opponent like Yang Kai, he could not afford to slip up or provide any opportunities for the former to exploit. Otherwise, his previous efforts might all be for naught. Having gradually driven Yang Kai to a desperate situation, It was only a matter of time before Mo'ne caught up with and slaughtered his foe. Nevertheless, he became more and more cautious as the climax slowly approached. His heart was filled with a sense of anticipation. After confronting each other for so many years, Mo'ne had always been forced to bear various humiliations. He had yielded to Yang Kai on countless occasions, which made his reputation plummet among the Black Ink clan. The territory lords constantly criticized and ridiculed him, but he simply ignored them. That was because he knew that the Black Ink clan would be the one to suffer if he did not surrender to Yang Kai on occasion. All his efforts had been aimed at gaining more advantages for the Black Ink clan. Compared to that, what was always being at a disadvantage in a confrontation against Yang Kai? So what if his reputation was terrible? So what if the territory lords constantly looked down on him? If he could return to the no-return pass with the glory of slaughtering Yang Kai, then all the humiliation he suffered before would be washed away immediately. In any case, he was extremely relieved that Yang Kai was the only irregularity among the human race. He never wanted to encounter such a difficult opponent in his life again. What delighted him even more was that the royal lord had always trusted in him and never interfered with his decision-making. Having such a generous leader was the biggest reason he could force Yang Kai into such a desperate situation today. The deaths of all those innate territory lords would be honored soon. Although his heart pounded with excitement, Mo'ne did not reduce the intensity of his onslaught against Yang Kai. Purifying light covered Yang Kai and severed Mo'ne's aura. Then, space principles began to fluctuate. "Can you even escape?" Mo'ne sneered coldly. "It's just the final and useless struggle of a cornered beast." The severed aura immediately exploded and shook the surrounding void. Although Yang Kai successfully left via instantaneous movement, he did not manage to flee very far. Mo'ne could instantly perceive Yang Kai's position with a sweep of his divine sense, but just as he was about to give chase, he sensed something that made him scowl deeply. In addition to Yang Kai's aura, he also sensed many auras belonging to the innate territory lords up ahead. Why are they here? It was only at this moment that he abruptly realized Yang Kai had been leading him around in a wide circle. They had returned to the battlefield from before. Why are those territory lords still here? The pursuit had lasted for more than half a month, so it stood to reason that the territory lords should have returned to the no-return pass by now. These guys are heavily wounded. Why are they just loitering around? Mo'ne couldn't help feeling extremely annoyed. On the other side, Yang Kai reappeared from the void and stared at the innate territory lords in confusion. Not many innate territory lords remained alive after the previous battle, less than 100 in total, all of whom were heavily injured, so he couldn't help having the same doubts and questions as Mo'ne. Why are these guys still here? However, Yang Kai soon figured out the reason. There was an enormous illusory phantom looming over a vast swath of the void. At first glance, the illusory phantom looked like an alchemy furnace. Be that as it may, the alchemy furnace seemed slightly different from the ordinary alchemy furnaces. Not only was the alchemy furnace gigantic, but the illusory surface was covered in various complicated runes and patterns. It felt as though the deepest and most profound truth of the universe was contained within these markings. A sense of insight and enlightenment subconsciously welled up inside Yang Kai when he glanced at the alchemy furnace. The patterns on its surface were also not static, but instead in a constant state of flow and flux. Moreover, he could clearly feel that the alchemy furnace was becoming increasingly solidified at an extremely slow speed. What is that? Yang Kai frowned in puzzlement. There had been no illusory phantom of the alchemy furnace in this place when he initially made his escape, so how did such a strange thing manage to appear here while he was wandering the void for half a month? Nevertheless, he was certain about one thing. The mysterious feeling in his heart was coming from this alchemy furnace. The inexplicable turmoil that shook his small universe was also caused by this alchemy furnace. What kind of alchemy furnace would have such a mysterious force? Staring at the illusory phantom of the alchemy furnace in front of him, a flash of understanding swept through his mind as an existence that only appeared in rumors and legends instantly sprang to mind. The universe furnace. During the late ancient era, 10 martial ancestors, including Kang, had used the power of the World Tree to gain enlightenment about the open heaven realm method. It was only after their success that the human race began to prosper. At the same time, they finally had the means to confront the Black Ink clan. Thanks to the capital that allowed them to compete for supremacy in the world, the human race gradually became dominant in the vast universe. Unfortunately, the open heaven realm method was innately flawed. All cultivators who cultivated this method were limited by their inherent shackles, the peak of their martial Tao set in stone the moment they reached this realm. Nevertheless, nothing was absolute. There was bound to be a loophole somewhere, and the mysterious universe furnace was one of those loopholes. The universe furnace bred innate open heaven pills. If a cultivator could obtain these innate open heaven pills, then they could break through their shackles and overcome the disadvantages brought about by the limitations of the open heaven realm method. Be that as it may, the universe furnace was a thing of legend and myth, its whereabouts rarely revealed throughout history. Yang Kai's understanding of the universe furnace was limited to some rumors he heard in the past. According to the rumors, the universe furnace was extremely elusive and impossible to locate. Furthermore, the innate open heaven pills had miraculous effects that could help a cultivator break through their inherent shackles. All the information he knew was limited to the information accessible by the general public. The universe furnace seemed to be even more mysterious than the grand ancient ruins boundary, therefore, he couldn't help feeling stunned when he realized that the illusory phantom of the alchemy furnace belonged to the legendary universe furnace. I can't believe the universe furnace appeared at this time and location. The first thought that sprang to mind was similar to the concerns that Mi Jinglun had considered previously. This phenomenon might not be a good thing for the human race. The emergence of the universe furnace would surely attract the attention of many human race masters. Accordingly, the Black Ink clan would resort to any means possible just to prevent the humans from seizing this opportunity. Up until now, the power accumulated by the human race was far from adequate. In stark contrast, the Black Ink clan just experienced a huge leap in strength thanks to the influx of innate territory lords and high-rank Black Ink nests. If the delicate balance that had been maintained for the past several thousand years was broken, the human race might not benefit from the outcome. The second thought that sprang to mind was that the universe furnace seemed a little different from what he had initially imagined. He had always thought the universe furnace as something similar to a supreme treasure like the soul-warming lotus. It would appear out of nowhere one day and exude a mysterious aura into the surroundings. When the time was right, the innate open heaven pills would fly out of the universe furnace and enter the possession of those who were lucky enough to seize them. The universe furnace in front of him not only had the shape of an alchemy furnace, but it also exuded a mysterious aura. However, it was much too large. The universe furnace loomed over a massive region. Not to mention, it was obviously just an illusory image that was slowly solidifying over time. Could it be that the universe furnace will only appear once the illusory phantom completely turns solid? I wonder how long that will take. There was no time for Yang Kai to ponder the mysteries of the universe furnace, though, as he soon noticed the distortion of the void around it. Even Zhao Yi Bai had seen through the strangeness of this phenomenon at a glance, so how could Yang Kai fail to notice it? The space around the alchemy furnace's illusory phantom might seem normal on the surface, but the inside was extremely twisted and warped, constantly shifting and folding onto itself. Yang Kai immediately became overjoyed. Even though he had been backed into a corner with no escape, a path had appeared before him in the end. His intuition proved correct. The opportunity to escape Mo Na Yi's pursuit was right in front of him. His misery was caused by the universe furnace, but his salvation also came from the universe furnace. It was truly an object of both misfortune and joy. The appearance of this mysterious object had shaken the very foundation of his small universe. As a result of the turmoil, he suffered a heavy blow from Mo Na Yi. Now, he was going to use this very object to escape his current crisis. The good and bad were even now. With a single flash of thought, Yang Kai desperately drew upon his world force. His divine sense surged wildly at the same time. The burst of his full force caused the entire surrounding void to become distorted. Like an ominous beast that was backed into a corner, he gritted his teeth and howled, "Mo Na Yi, if you want me dead, then I will slaughter those territory lords first. While saying so, he boldly rushed in the direction of the innate territory lords and plunged directly into the illusory phantom space without the slightest hesitation. Marshall Peak, Chapter 57:13, Every cloud has a silver lining. Many innate territory lords were trapped inside the universe furnace's illusory phantom. When they suddenly saw young Kai approaching them with such fierce momentum, they couldn't help turning pale with horror and fright. Young Kai was in absolutely dire condition, and his aura also seemed exceedingly weak. Nevertheless, their experience during the fierce battle from before had traumatized them deeply, so they were naturally horrified by his arrival. It had to be said that these territory lords were not in good condition either. They had been severely wounded when they snuck out from the primordial heaven's source grand restriction, and had almost no chance to heal and recuperate from their wounds at all. After that, they were sent here under Mo Nae's orders to besiege Yang Kai. Although they were lucky enough to survive the previous battle, their injuries had only gotten more severe. If Yang Kai were to attack them now, they would not have much power to fight back at all. As soon as the words left his mouth, Yang Kai plunged into the illusory phantom of the universe furnace. He instantly felt the distortion of space around him. Just as he had noticed earlier, the space inside the universe furnace's illusory phantom was twisted and folded upon itself. It was impossible to make sense of this space with common sense. Even if something seemed close at hand, there might be countless layers of space overlapping and folding over each other between them, so that the actual distance was unfathomably large. The slightest movement inside this chaotic region would cause a person to land in a different layer of space. That was why the territory lords could not escape once they were surrounded by the illusory phantom. They were forced to remain here not because they did not want to leave, but because they simply could not. The mysteries of the universe furnace were perfectly illustrated in this scenario. For the territory lords, everything seemed so close yet so far inside the space shrouded within the illusory phantom, and the same was true for Yang Kai. The difference was that Yang Kai manipulated space principles as soon as he stepped into the universe furnace's range. As a result, the layers of folded space instantly became comprehensible and traceable to him. Yang Kai lightly took a few steps forward. A layer of ripples spread out all over his body, then he abruptly materialized in front of a territory lord. Raising his hand, Yang Kai summoned the Azure Dragon Spear and thrust it directly into the heart of the territory lord. On the other hand, the territory lord simply had a look of disbelief on his face. His eyes were also filled with complete incomprehension, as though he never imagined that Yang Kai would appear in front of him and stab him with such ease. One thing had to be said about their current situation. Although these territory lords seemed to be gathered together in one spot, they were actually scattered across different layers of space. After being trapped inside the universe furnace, they could neither escape nor rally together at the same spot. No matter how much they struggled, they could only spin around in circles. It was also for that reason that the territory lords were not too worried about their safety, even though they had been terrified to hear Yang Kai's ruthless threat just now. That was because they knew the strangeness of this space better than anybody else, but their confidence only lasted until this moment. When one of their companions was run through by Yang Kai's spear, the territory lords finally turned pale with fright. Yang Kai had easily and effortlessly achieved what they had not been able to do despite their best effort. At that moment, they promptly recalled the information given to them by Mo Nae regarding Yang Kai's mastery over the Tao of space. This place might be able to trap the territory lords, but Yang Kai could traverse it as though he were walking on flat ground. With a shake of the spear, the territory lord who was stabbed in the chest immediately exploded into pieces. Yang Kai subsequently retrieved his spear and charged towards the nearest territory lord. Having seen what happened to his companion just now, the territory lord was filled with absolute horror and shouted at the top of his voice, "Save me, Sir Mo Nae." Yang Kai smiled wickedly with a sinister expression on his face. "No one can save you now. Die." "Yang Kai, you dare?" Mo Nae's furious roar came from behind. While he was chasing Yang Kai, he had naturally seen the territory lords and the alchemy furnace's illusory phantom surrounding them from a distance. Yang Kai might have figured out that the phenomenon was caused by the emergence of the universe furnace, but Mo Nae was completely clueless about the situation. It was only natural though, as Mo-Na-Yi was from the Black Ink clan. Why would he know about the universe furnace? Not to mention, the Black Ink disciples would not mention such things without reason either. Mo-Na-Yi was initially vigilant towards the unknown object, but his vigilance was soon overcome by his rage when he saw Yang Kai casually slaughtering the first innate territory lord and aiming for a second. His figure swayed, and he plunged into the illusory phantom after Yang Kai. In the next moment, his expression became blank with shock. Yang Kai threw his head back as he laughed wildly. Meanwhile, the expressions of the territory lords changed drastically. While laughing, Yang Kai suddenly coughed up a mouthful of golden blood. The power that he had forcibly gathered withered like a deflated balloon, and he rapidly collapsed. His entire appearance made him seem like he was about to die on the spot. He was a dry oil lamp at this point. When he pushed himself just now to butcher a territory lord in one blow, his actions had only been to distract and provoke Mo-Na-Yi, as he was worried that the latter would be too vigilant to follow him into the universe furnace. In truth, Yang Kai would have been powerless to kill the second territory lord even if Mo-Na-Yi had not stepped forward to stop him. Fortunately, things had taken a turn for the better. Mo-Na-Yi had followed him into the universe furnace, which swung the situation in Yang Kai's favor. He could sleep with peace of mind now. Mo-Na-Yi, oh, Mo-Na-Yi. Even a scheming and treacherous bastard like you can fall into a simple trap. Just wait for me to recover, then I will deal with you. While saying that, Yang Kai took out a handful of spirit pills and stuffed them into his mouth as all the innate territory lords watched. He subsequently took out a set of cultivation materials to refine while completely ignoring all the territory lords around him. The recent period had been too difficult on him. After all, he didn't even have the time to swallow any spirit pills when he was being pursued by Mo-Na-Yi. On the other hand, Mo-Na-Yi was livid. Unable to hold back, he threw a punch in Yang Kai's direction. The power behind the punch could be said to contain his full strength. Be that as it may, the blow failed to cause the slightest disturbance to Yang Kai as all of the force was absorbed and dissipated by the layers of folded space between them. Mo-Na-Yi's expression immediately became gloomy. He had sensed that something was wrong as soon as he plunged into this place. The space inside the illusory phantom was evidently different from the outside world. Combined with Yang Kai's previous attitude and current reaction, how could Mo-Na-Yi not know that he had fallen for this rascal's trick? He could not believe that he was tricked into entering this strange place. Looking around, he could clearly see the figures of the territory lords. The distance between them did not seem very far. Visually, the territory lord nearest to him seemed to be only a few steps away. However, the actual distance between them did not reduce whatsoever when he tried to walk over. Mo-Na-Yi clearly had the perception of moving forward quite a long distance, but he seemed to be walking on the spot without moving forward in the slightest. What is this thing? Mo-Na-Yi wondered as he quickly realized that the root of the problem was the alchemy furnace's illusory phantom. Upon hearing Mo-Na-Yi's question, the territory lords felt a chill running through their hearts. They had been hoping that he could resolve their doubts and bring them out of this place, but it would seem that he was just as clueless as they were. Staring at the silent territory lords around him, Mo-Na-Yi lost his temper and roared, "Why didn't any of you warn me about this place?" If any of the territory lords had warned him in advance, he would not have rashly plunged into this space and caused himself to be stuck in this trap. None of the territory lords made a sound, but Mo-Na-Yi knew that his question was unreasonable. In this case, it was his fault for being too impatient. Yang Kai's murderous attitude had also given him no time to consider his options. On the other hand, the territory lords had been so intimidated by Yang Kai that they were subconsciously expecting Mo-Na-Yi to protect them. That was how he ended up falling into this trap. Sure enough, he could not afford to underestimate Yang Kai under any circumstances. Even in such a desperate situation, Yang Kai had actually managed to lure him into a trap. He had to admit that he made the wrong move this time. Mo-Na-Yi did not know anything about the alchemy furnace's illusory phantom, much less why the space shrouded by the illusory phantom was so treacherous. The only thing he knew was that he could not give Yang Kai any time to recover. The Black Ink clan had paid such a large price and sacrificed so many innate territory lords in battle just to push Yang Kai into a corner. He could not give up halfway. As the saying went, beat the snake to death in order to avoid future calamity. If he allowed Yang Kai to walk away alive, then he would be faced with countless troubles in the future. Mo Na Yi had always maintained a certain attitude towards Yang Kai, whereby he tried not to offend the other party as much as possible. Now that their friendly relations were thoroughly destroyed, he needed to ensure that Yang Kai died cleanly. It was difficult to judge the distance within this strange space, but communicating with each other did not seem to be affected. Mo Na Yi pondered in silence for a moment before he sent a divine sense transmission to the territory lords around him and prepared a plan. A short while later, Mo Na Yi and the territory lords sprang into action. Every one of them pushed their bodies and tried to move in Yang Kai's direction. Yang Kai seemed to perceive their movements and opened his eyes to glance at them. However, he quickly ignored them and continued to focus on his recovery. The space inside the universe furnace's illusory phantom was extremely chaotic and distorted. Unless the territory lords had cultivated the Tao of space and could figure out some of the rules of this place, it was simply a fool's dream for them to approach Yang Kai by randomly struggling. It was not to say that they had no chance whatsoever, as there were always some coincidences, but the chances were infinitesimal. More importantly, Yang Kai could sense that the space shrouded by the universe furnace's illusory phantom was becoming increasingly complicated as time passed. The territory lords could try their hardest to approach him, but even if they were lucky enough to enter his space by some great coincidence, he would only need to take a step in any direction and all their previous efforts would go to waste. Leaving a thread of consciousness to keep an eye on the situation around him, Yang Kai completely immersed himself in recovering. On the other side, Mo Na Yi finally realized that this method was futile after trying for some time. Several dozen territory lords and himself included had been trying to approach Yang Kai, but their efforts were to no avail. It was difficult for them to achieve any results even if they persisted in their efforts. Besides, judging by the current condition of the territory lords, even if a territory lord managed to reach Yang Kai's location, the only fate waiting for them was death. Mo Na Yi sent out divine sense transmissions again, telling the territory lords to cease their useless efforts. Then, he took out a miniature black ink nest and attempted to contact the no-return pass. Regardless of the circumstances, he had to inform the no-return pass about his current situation. He also wanted to inquire about the illusory phantom of the alchemy furnace, as well as if there was some method to escape this place after getting stuck inside. It was fortunate that the connection between the black ink nests was not cut off, so Mo Na Yi soon received a response from Meng Qiu, one filled with cynicism and mockery. It was no secret that he had been locked in a power struggle with Mo Na Yi for a long time now. Now that Mo Na Yi's plans had not only been thwarted, but also resulted in heavy losses for the Black Ink clan, with even Mo Na Yi himself being trapped in this strange space, Meng Qiu probably believed that he was the top dog now. However, there was still a key piece of information that allowed Mo Na Yi to understand the illusory phantom of the alchemy furnace. It was the universe furnace. Although there were many Black Ink disciples under the Black Ink clan, most of them had neither high cultivation nor extensive knowledge and experience. That was why they did not know much about the universe furnace. Their level of understanding regarding the universe furnace was about the same or less than Yang Kai's, so it was difficult for them to provide any valuable information. However, that was enough to make some guesses. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5714, Whose Victory? According to the information from the Black Ink disciples, the universe furnace was the most mysterious treasure in existence. It was generally elusive and impossible to locate, so there was no way to discover its whereabouts unless it appeared on its own. More importantly, the universe furnace contained innate open heaven pills. These innate open heaven pills had the miraculous effect of helping cultivators break through their innate shackles. Mo Na Yi was shocked by the information. If these innate open heaven pills could help cultivators break through their innate shackles, then the human race masters at the peak of the 8th Order Open Heaven realm would be able to advance to the 9th Order. It would be bad enough if an ordinary 8th Order Open Heaven realm master advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm, but the strength of 1 or 2 additional 9th Order masters would not render the Black Ink clan helpless. However, what if Yang Kai was the one who obtained one of these innate open heaven pills instead? Over the past several thousand years, most of the obstruction and pressure faced by the Black Ink clan came from Yang Kai. Whether it was the peace treaty between the human race and the Black Ink clan or the matter regarding the surrendering of 30% of their cultivation resources, the Black Ink clan had been forced to accept those terms due to the existence of the human race's killing star. That was especially true for the peace discussions between the human race and the Black Ink clan. At the time, the Black Ink clan had considered that they might be able to produce more royal lords in the future by accepting the peace deal. That would have greatly reduced the deterrent effect that Yang Kai, an 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, had on the Black Ink clan. Unfortunately, the Universe Furnace had appeared before the Territory Lords could even become royal lords. If Yang Kai could get his hands on an innate Open Heaven pill and advance to the 9th Order, then all the Black Ink clan's efforts and compromises over the millennia would be nothing more than a complete farce. With his tyrannical strength and ruthless means, the Black Ink clan would be no match for Yang Kai once he advanced to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm. After considering all these factors, Mo Na felt alarm bells blaring in his heart. Yang Kai must never be allowed to obtain the innate Open Heaven pills no matter the cost. He cannot be allowed to advance to the 9th Order Open Heaven realm. If he does, the Black Ink clan will be in mortal danger. Why did the Universe Furnace appear at this point in time? Is the human race really blessed by the heavens? Mo Na's main concern was stopping Yang Kai from obtaining the innate Open Heaven pills, but how was he supposed to achieve that? They were currently trapped inside the illusory phantom of the Universe Furnace with no means of escape. The distance might not seem far visually, but the space was actually extremely distorted and chaotic in reality. The information from Meng Q indicated that there was more than one illusory phantom of the Universe Furnace as it had appeared on various battlefields across the Great Territories, as well as the Barren Territory. After compiling all the information, the Black Ink disciples from the human race speculated that the illusory phantoms were not the real body of the Universe Furnace but a mysterious projection. The Universe Furnace itself was hidden somewhere. Nevertheless, the appearance of the projections meant that the Universe Furnace was about to emerge. It might be that the Universe Furnace would finally be revealed when the projections became completely solidified. These speculations were reasonable. Mo Na pondered in silence for a while before he sent a message to Meng Q. He wanted the Black Ink clan to search for more information. At the same time, he urgently summoned all the innate territory lords wandering outside to return in preparation for the future. Not only was Meng Q generally difficult to deal with, but he was also always attempting to take over control from Mo Na. Be that as it may, he had one good point about him: he was self-aware of his shortcomings. He did not object to Mo Na's requests during such important situations because he knew that he was no match for Mo Na when it came to schemes and tactics. Besides, Mo Na had been appointed by the royal lord himself to take command. That was why he quietly did as Mo Na asked. Putting away the miniature black ink nest, Mo Na frowned and pondered for a long time. He calculated all the possible scenarios that might occur in the future and created countermeasures against these scenarios. After great consideration, he decided that his top priority was to obtain as much information regarding the Universe Furnace as possible. Yang Kai might know something. When the thought crossed his mind, Mo Na immediately glanced over at Yang Kai and offered a ceasefire. "Brother Yang, given the situation, what do you say we have a truce?" He had called Yang Kai by name during their confrontation, but he was now respectfully calling Yang Kai by the title Brother Yang again. Yang Kai ignored Mo Na. "He pursued me so fiercely earlier that I nearly had no escape, not to mention the curses and death threats that were thrown at me. How dare he propose to call for a truce now? What does he think of me? Does he think that I'm so easygoing?" Mo Na continued, "Now that you and I are both trapped here, why must you hold a grudge for everything that happened earlier? At the end of the day, the Black Ink clan suffered the greatest loss. So many innate territory lords died in battle already. Although you are wounded, Brother Yang, you came out alive in the end." This time around, Yang Kai failed to stop himself from responding and gave a cold sneer. "Serves you right. It's your own fault that so many innate territory lords died in battle. If not because you were trying to trap me, then they would not have died in vain. Besides, you might be trapped here, But do you really think this place can trap me? Mo Na Yi's expression suddenly changed with those words. He suddenly realized that he had overlooked a major problem. It was true that both he and the territory lords were trapped in this strange space with no means to escape, but what about Yang Kai? This place would not be able to trap Yang Kai. If he really wanted to leave, it would not be difficult for him. This is bad. Mo Na Yi quickly suppressed the distracting thoughts in his mind. Either way, it was a good thing that Yang Kai was willing to speak with him. He thus casually probed, "Brother Yang, do you know what this illusory phantom shrouding this area is?" After asking that question, he chuckled to himself, "Of course, you're aware, Brother Yang. This is the legendary universe furnace after all. I'm sure the human race masters have heard about the universe furnace to a certain extent."
Oh.
Yang Kai raised his eyebrows in astonishment. It seems that the connection between the black ink nests has not been severed. Does that mean you can gather intel from outside of here? Mo Na Yi looked proud. The black ink nest has its own mysterious ways. It seems that you are aware of the universe furnace, Brother Yang. In that case, do you have more information regarding the universe furnace? Yang Kai remained indifferent. What does it matter if I do? And, what does it matter if I don't? Separating out a thread of consciousness to chat with Mo Na Yi did not impede his healing process. Since Mo Na Yi wanted to discuss the universe furnace, Yang Kai was more than happy to fish for some information. Besides, he was honestly feeling quite troubled due to his lack of knowledge on the universe furnace. It would be great if he could extract some from the Black Ink clan. Mo Na Yi responded seriously. The universe furnace has not been seen for hundreds of thousands of years. Even if you have some knowledge regarding the universe furnace, I'm sure your information is not comprehensive. Brother Yang, how about you and I exchange what we know? Yang Kai immediately snorted coldly. The universe furnace is a great opportunity for the human race. Don't tell me the Black Ink clan has their eye on it as well? Mo Na Yi replied lightly. It is precisely because the universe furnace is such a great opportunity for the human race that the Black Ink clan will not allow the human race to succeed so easily. As you know, Brother Yang, the Black Ink clan and the human race will soon engage in a battle to the death now that the universe furnace has emerged. Yang Kai fell silent. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, Mo Na Yi was correct. Over the past several thousand years, the war between the Black Ink clan and the human race had never ceased. However, both sides had been concentrating on accumulating their respective strengths since the peace talks. As a result, both the number of masters among the Black Ink clan and the human race had increased dramatically. The situation was only maintained thanks to the tacit cooperation between the higher-ups of the Black Ink clan and the human race. However, the delicate balance was bound to be broken with the sudden emergence of the universe furnace. The human race was desperate to seize the opportunities inside the universe furnace. Likewise, the Black Ink clan was desperate to stop the human race from doing so. Once the war broke out, the bloodshed was bound to sweep across the entire world like a tidal wave. This battle might be the deciding factor in the entire war. Moreover, it would only end when one party was completely annihilated. The human race was not ready, but the Black Ink clan was not ready either. Although there were more innate territory lords and high-rank Black Ink nests at the no-return pass now, none of these newly emerged innate territory lords would be able to recover from their injuries without spending at least 100 to 200 years healing. It was fortunate that the human race had some newly advanced Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Masters, while it seemed the Black Ink clan had not produced any new royal lords so far. While Yang Kai was silent, he heard Mo Na Yi speaking once more. Brother Yang, did you know that this is not the true universe furnace, but just a projection looming over this piece of the void while there are many others out there? Yang Kai calmly went along with the flow of the conversation. Of course, it is just an illusory phantom. Isn't it only natural for it to appear in more than one place? However, he was actually very confused inside. What does he mean? Could there be many other manifestations in other places? Mo Na Yi, this bastard. Is he trying to trick me? Or is he up to something else? At the same time, Yang Kai couldn't help feeling rather annoyed. If he had known this would happen earlier, he would have studied more of the ancient records from the cave heavens and paradises where there was bound to be some information on the universe furnace. Now that the universe furnace had appeared, young Kai was completely stumped by the situation. In fact, he knew even less than Mo Na Yi, who still could ask the Black Ink clan to gather more intelligence. Mo Na Yi studied young Kai's expression carefully but failed to detect any clues. Thus, he bluntly said, "Brother Yang, why don't we exchange information with each other? Although the universe furnace is about to emerge, it has yet to truly appear in the world. Gathering more information would not hurt." Yang Kai couldn't help nodding in agreement. "There is some truth to your words. Why don't you tell me what you know first, then I'll tell you what I know. You should understand my character. Over the years, I've never broken a single promise I've made with the Black Ink clan." Mo Na Yi nodded, of course. Speaking of which, this was true. Although they were mutual enemies who shared an absolutely irreconcilable blood feud, young Kai had never violated the agreements he made with the Black Ink clan. As such, Mo Na Yi suddenly broke into a smile. "But, you don't seem to know much about the universe furnace, Brother Yang. Let's forget about exchanging information with each other." Young Kai was stunned. "Who says I don't know anything about the universe furnace?" Mo Na Yi smiled lightly. "If you knew anything about the universe furnace, Brother Yang, then why would you agree to exchange information with the Black Ink clan? The fact that you agreed to the information exchange shows that you don't know much either. Otherwise, you would not have mentioned your excellent character." Young Kai was startled before snarling, "You tricked me." Mo Na Yi sighed, "As I suspected." Young Kai's expression immediately darkened at those words. It was only at this moment that he realized the truth. Mo Na Yi had not been sure about how much he knew regarding the universe furnace before, but the truth had been confirmed now. This bastard. Young Kai couldn't help feeling secretly annoyed at his carelessness. Regardless, it did not matter much. This was just a small loss that did not affect the big picture anyway. After confirming that young Kai did not know much about the universe furnace, Mo Na Yi lost interest in talking to him and instead took out the small black ink nest again to maintain constant communication with the outside world. Young Kai secretly watched Mo Na Yi's actions and coldly snorted to himself in his heart. "Once I've spent some time healing, I will find a way to make you cough up everything you know. So what if I lost in this verbal confrontation? This strange space shrouded by the universe furnace's illusory phantom is practically my home ground. It will be my victory in the end." Marshall Peak, Chapter 5715, Information. The emergence of the universe furnace's projection triggered various changes among the human race and the Black Ink clan. The biggest change was that both the human race and the Black Ink clan recalled all their forces. Although there were no large-scale battles in any of the great territory battlefields, there were many small skirmishes throughout the lands. After all, the newly advanced rising stars of the human race and the Black Ink clan were constantly seeking out strong enemies to challenge and improve themselves. Be that as it may, more than a dozen great territory battlefields instantly became calm and peaceful soon after the universe furnace's projection appeared in the world. Both the human race and the Black Ink clan withdrew all their outside forces. Nobody dared to make any rash moves before they figured out the mysteries and details of the universe furnace. At the end of the day, the human race had a slightly better understanding of the universe furnace. They had various sources such as the records written in the ancient books of the cave heavens and paradises, the stories narrated by the elders who lived long enough to hear about the previous opening, the teachings from the elders of the Dragon and Phoenix clans, and the information obtained from Blood Crow's personal experience. On the other hand, the Black Ink clan did not have such rich sources of information. Throughout history, the projections of the universe furnace would almost always appear on the Black Ink battlefield whenever it manifested. There were occasional appearances in the 3000 worlds, but those incidents were very rare. In the past, the Black Ink clan had some understanding of the universe furnace too, but the Black Ink clansmen who were active on the Black Ink battlefield previously had been annihilated during the human race army's crusade. Even the royal lords had been slaughtered to the last, so how could the information be handed down to the current Black Ink clan? The current Black Ink clan consisted only of members who recently emerged from the primordial heavens source grand restriction, so they had never experienced the emergence of the universe furnace before. All they could do was respond according to the small amount of information provided by the Black Ink disciples and the reactions of the human race. Under Mo-Na's orders, countless innate territory lords across the great territory battlefields were transferred back to the no-return pass to await further orders, news that was quickly relayed to the human race. The mobilization of so many innate territory lords was bound to result in a disparity in the balance of power between the human race and the Black Ink clan. In the past, this would have been a good chance for the human race to make an aggressive counterattack. However, the human race did not make any moves against the Black Ink clan and simply focused on preparing for the upcoming emergence of the universe furnace. Compared to the gains and losses that could be obtained on the great territory battlefields, the universe furnace, which represented the greatest opportunity in the world, was undoubtedly what the human race valued more at the moment. As time passed, numerous armies led by many masters traveled to the periphery of the void where the universe furnace's projections were located under the orders of the higher-ups of both the human race and the Black Ink clan. Both parties faced off against each other across the void shrouded by the illusory phantoms. The Black Ink clan was acting as though they were determined to prevent the human race from seizing the opportunities in the universe furnace at all costs. Naturally, the human race would never back down. Nevertheless, it was foreseeable that a massive war between the Black Ink clan and the human race would break out once the universe furnace fully emerged. There were more than a dozen projections scattered across the great territory battlefields. Therefore, the deployment of personnel and the organization of the armies were the greatest considerations of the leaders of the Black Ink clan and the human race. Both Mi Jinglun of the human race and Mo-Na Yi of the Black Ink clan had each deployed their troops to counter the other. A storm was coming. As the days went by, the atmosphere on the great territory battlefields became increasingly oppressive. Nevertheless, the armies of both the Black Ink clan and the human race did not dare to make any moves without explicit orders from above, lest they trigger a war in advance. At this time, there were many high-rank Black Ink nests and innate territory lords missing from the no-return pass. Somewhere in the void shrouded by the projection of the universe furnace, located in the depths of the Black Ink battlefield, Yang Kai finally exhaled deeply and opened his eyes. It had been several months since he first entered this place. Now, filled with energy, he slowly stood up and even brazenly gave a lazy stretch. Several months of recuperation allowed him to recover all of his strength. The last battle with the innate territory lords, followed by the intense pursuit by Mo-Na Yi, had left him severely wounded and exhausted. It was fortunate that his physique was extremely tough, and thanks to his potent dragon vein, it was not difficult for him to recover as long as nobody was disturbing him. As soon as Yang Kai showed movement, the innate territory lords trapped in this place instantly tensed up in response. In stark contrast to the ruddy complexion on Yang Kai's face, their auras were weak and unstable. There was no helping this, as they could not heal as Yang Kai could in this space, so their wounds had not gotten any better even after being trapped in this space for so long. Watching Yang Kai get to his feet with a lazy stretch, the complexions of the territory lords turned ashen. Looking panicked, many of them cast pleading looks at Mo-Na Yi in a silent prayer for help. Although Mo-Na Yi had known that this day would come sooner or later, Yang Kai's recovery speed still shocked him. He did not wait for Yang Kai to make any moves and quickly opened his mouth to speak. "Brother Yang, the Black Ink clan promises to provide 30% of our cultivation resources as agreed in the past. We will not withhold any resources or delay any of the deliveries." Yang Kai turned around, but said nothing as he simply gave Mo-Na Yi a silent grin. Mo-Na Yi gritted his teeth and snarled, 50%. Yang Kai put his hands behind his back with a leisurely expression on his face. "The war is about to begin. Do you really think we have the time to be bargaining about such trivial matters? 30%. 50%. What does any of that matter? It wouldn't make a difference even if you offered 100%. I don't have time to hang around outside the no-return pass anymore." It was enough that he had been extorting resources from the Black Ink clan for the past 1,000 years or so, and similar opportunities would not come again in the future. That was why it was impossible for Mo-Na Yi to offer those cultivation resources in exchange for the lives of these innate territory lords. "What do you want then, Brother Yang?" Mo-Na Yi asked solemnly. There were dozens of innate territory lords trapped in this space. However, he was helpless to protect them. The situation left him feeling extremely heartbroken and powerless. Yang Kai casually summoned the azure dragon spear and gave it a little twirl. At the same time, he pushed his space principles and walked towards the territory lord closest to him. Space rippled in his wake, making it seem as though he was walking on the surface of a calm lake. The mysterious space that left Mo Nae and the innate territory lords completely vulnerable and helpless seemed no different from the flat ground under his feet. Watching Yang Kai gradually approach him, the territory lord tried to flee in terror. Unfortunately, his speed was slower than a turtle's crawl despite his best efforts. By the time Yang Kai reached him, he had only managed to cover a distance of less than a meter. It was not that he had only moved by 1 meter. On the contrary, he had actually traveled quite far, but with the folded nature of the surrounding space, that distance was equal to 1 meter. Yang Kai pointed his spear at the territory lord and turned to look at Mo Nae, one piece of information in exchange for the life of a territory lord. Information? Mo Nae raised an eyebrow at those words. Yes. Information regarding the universe furnace that is valuable and unknown to me, Yang Kai smiled. A few months ago, he had been tricked by Mo Nae on this matter, but so what if he had fallen for that ruse? Now that the lives of these innate territory lords were at risk, how could Mo Nae continue to keep the information he possessed a secret? Mo Nae was certainly decisive and immediately inquired, "Does the information I told you earlier count, Brother Yang?" Naturally, he was referring to the information he disclosed to Yang Kai a few months ago, about how the universe furnace's illusory phantom had appeared in more than one place. Yang Kai frowned and pondered for a while, then he removed his spear. "Fine, I won't take advantage of you. That one counts." Having escaped from death, the territory lord had a look of lingering fear on his face, his entire body drenched in a layer of cold sweat. Meanwhile, Yang Kai strolled over to the next territory lord nearby and turned to look at Mo Nae again. Mo Nae did not even bother to wait for Yang Kai to speak and promptly offered an answer. According to the information obtained by the Black Ink clan, Profound Nether Territory also has a projection of the universe furnace. Is there really more than one projection? What does that mean? Yang Kai frowned deeply. How can the universe furnace's illusory phantom be in 2 places at once? In that case, where will the universe furnace emerge? He did not suspect that Mo Nae was deceiving him. After all, Mo Nae would not dare to do something that reckless in this situation. Nodding lightly, he sidestepped the territory lord with the spear pointed at him and came to the 3rd territory lord. Mo Nae sounded a little guilty as he muttered, "Azure Sun Territory also has an illusory phantom of the universe furnace." Yang Kai raised a brow at those words and glared at Mo Nae. Nevertheless, he moved on and came to stand in front of the next territory lord. Before Mo Nae could speak, Yang Kai interjected, "Don't tell me. Did the universe furnace's illusory phantoms appear on another great territory battlefield?" Mo Nae smiled awkwardly. "Well, there's one in Twin Poles territory too." Yang Kai laughed angrily but grudgingly nodded in respect. "Good, count it as my loss. Judging by what you've said so far, do all of the great territory battlefields have projections?" Mo Nae kept his mouth shut and considered his answer carefully. Before he could respond, Yang Kai raised a hand to stop him. "I was just talking to myself. You don't need to answer the question. More importantly, I do not want to hear any more about the other locations of the illusory phantoms." Mo Nae sighed heavily. "But, Brother Yang, what I've told you so far is indeed information that you didn't know. You've always been an honest man. Are you going back on your word now?" Yang Kai raised his chin with a rebellious expression on his face. "What? Haven't you heard the phrase people under the eaves have to bow their heads?" Mo Nae was absolutely annoyed. Yang Kai muttered under his breath, "Judging by the information so far, does the universe furnace's illusory phantom appear in places where a large number of living beings lost their lives? What about the barren territory? What about the primordial heavens source grand restriction?" While speaking, Yang Kai studied Mo Nae's reaction carefully. Unfortunately, Mo Nae was a cunning man, so how could he slip up at such a moment? Yang Kai snapped angrily, "Enough. Is there an illusory phantom of the universe furnace in the barren territory? Tell me honestly. This will count as a piece of information." Upon hearing those words, Mo Nae finally nodded. "Yes, Then, he added a casual compliment, "You're very quick-witted, Brother Young. The truth is I've also speculated that there is an illusory phantom of the universe furnace at the primordial heaven's source ground restriction. Unfortunately, we have no means of confirming the situation." Yang Kai couldn't help teasing, "Have you lost contact with the primordial heaven's source ground restriction?" Mo Na was expressionless, but he neither confirmed nor denied the statement. Yang Kai frowned again. The locations where the universe furnace's illusory phantoms appear are all places where a large number of powerful masters have lost their lives in battle, including this place. A lot of innate territory lords died here. Does the Black Ink clan know anything about the relationship between these two factors? Mo Na shook his head, "No. The Black Ink clan doesn't know much about the universe furnace. The human race might know something." As he spoke, Mo Na secretly thought to himself in his heart, "It looks like Yang Kai is completely clueless about the universe furnace. Otherwise, he would not have asked so many superficial questions." Yang Kai did not bother wasting his time and energy on threatening another innate territory lord. Instead, he stood in place and declared, "What other information do you have? Tell me everything." I am a man who means what he says. A piece of valuable information in exchange for the life of one territory lord. That makes 5 pieces of information from earlier. Mo Na confirmed. "I know," Yang Kai agreed irritably. Mo Na seemed greatly reassured by those words. After considering his answer for some time, he began talking. "The illusory phantoms of the universe furnace are most likely some kind of projection. It's impossible to tell where the universe furnace itself is hiding, but its projection is displayed at various places thanks to its mysterious powers." Marshall Peak, Chapter 5716, Tracing Back to the Roots. A projection. Yang Kai frowned. This was not something he had considered. He only thought that the situation was rather strange. If the universe furnace was about to emerge, then why did more than a dozen or so illusory phantoms appear across the various great territory battlefields? There was even one here. On the other hand, if these illusory phantoms were just projections of the universe furnace, then the situation would make much more sense. Was this information obtained by the Black Ink clan? Yang Kai inquired. Mo Na shook his head as he replied, "It's my guess." Yang Kai nodded lightly. There was no need to doubt Mo Na's intentions too much. Based on the information he possessed at the moment, he would probably come to the same conclusion if he had the time to calm down and analyze the situation. What else? Yang Kai probed further. Mo Na pondered in silence for a moment. "Based on my observations, the projections are slowly solidifying. I'm sure you've noticed as well, Brother Yang. It has been several months since the projections first appeared. By my estimation, it will take another 2 years for the projection to completely materialize. I speculate that the universe furnace will only appear in the world once the projections have fully solidified." Looking around, Yang Kai examined the degree of projection solidification compared to a few months ago and did some estimation, arriving at the same conclusion as Mo Na. At the current rate, it would indeed take 2 years for the projection to solidify completely. Although the time of the universe furnace's emergence can roughly be determined, the location of its emergence remains a mystery. There are more than 10 projections at different locations, so it is difficult to determine the exact location of the universe furnace's emergence. Nevertheless, I believe there are 2 possibilities. What are the 2 possibilities? Yang Kai questioned. Mo Na glanced at Yang Kai in resentment. After being enemies for so many years, they were very familiar with each other by now. Yang Kai's actions might seem rash and impulsive, but he only took them after much consideration. With his intelligence and the information he just received, it would not be difficult for him to reach his own conclusions if he bothered to put his mind to work on the matter. However, he was either too lazy to think for himself or he was trying to figure out just how much information the Black Ink clan had gathered. That was why he was holding the lives of these territory lords hostage in exchange for information. Unfortunately, there was nothing Mo Na could do in retaliation. The first possibility is that the universe furnace's true body will randomly appear at one of the locations of the projections, and the rest of the projections are mere illusions. Mo-Na expressed his conjectures, not daring to conceal anything. In any case, he was simply guessing as well, so there was no harm in sharing. The second possibility is, all the projections are closely connected to the true body, hence, the universe furnace will appear wherever the projections are located. Yang Kai listened seriously and nodded lightly. That's a reasonable hypothesis. Indeed, these are the only two possibilities. It was not difficult to form these conjectures based on the existing information. Be that as it may, neither Mo-Na nor Yang Kai was aware of something crucial. The true body of the universe furnace would not be revealed even when these projections solidified. In fact, this supreme treasure had never been seen before throughout the long course of history. On the contrary, these projections would simply transform into entrances leading into the universe furnace once they were fully solidified. The so-called opportunities were hidden inside the universe furnace. It was not that Mo-Na and Yang Kai were dull-witted, just that the information they possessed was too little for them to form an accurate conjecture. Besides, they both had preconceived notions about the universe furnace. Since it was called the universe furnace, they naturally assumed that it was something akin to a mysterious alchemy furnace. How could they have known that this alchemy furnace would contain a sealed world of its own? Mo-Na did not continue speaking. It was not that he didn't want to, but that he had no other valuable information to share. Hence, he immediately started racking his brains for anything he could think of. Yang Kai did not pester Mo-Na either. Sinking deep into thought, he suddenly recalled something. He honestly did not know much about the universe furnace. The only knowledge he had was that the universe furnace contained innate open heaven pills that could help a cultivator break through their inherent shackles. However, he only heard that the world would be thrown into a storm of bloodshed whenever the universe furnace emerged. At the time, Yang Kai had not known much about the 3,000 worlds. His cultivation was also quite low, which resulted in a shallow understanding of that statement. He had simply assumed that a supreme treasure was something everybody would want to obtain, so the so-called storm of bloodshed would be caused by the infighting between the masters from the cave heavens and paradises. It would now seem that his assumption had been incorrect. For countless years since the late ancient era, the cave heavens and paradises had committed their elites to the Black Ink battlefield to wage a never-ending war against the Black Ink clan. All Ninth Order Old Ancestors also resided on the Black Ink battlefield to guard the Great Passes. There might be many cave heavens and paradises, but they had always been united against their common enemy. With an external enemy threatening them, how could the masters of the cave heavens and paradises create a storm of bloodshed over the opportunities that could be found in the universe furnace? The Old Ancestors would never allow such foolishness to occur. If the universe furnace were to appear, they would step forward to manage the situation themselves. If that were the case, then where would the storm of bloodshed come from? Yang Kai soon realized something important. According to the information he received from Mo-Na, the projections of the universe furnace seemed to appear in places where a large number of living beings had died in battle. When the universe furnace appeared in the world recently, the projections had appeared on the various Great Territory battlefields, the Barren Territory, the Primordial Heavens Source Grand Restriction, and even this place. This was the best evidence to support that statement. If this was the case now, then what about the past? Although there had been conflicts in the 3,000 worlds in the past, there were also some minor conflicts between various sects. Even if there were any casualties during these conflicts, the cultivation of these deceased cultivators would not be high. Unlike the tranquility in the 3,000 worlds, the war had never ceased on the Black Ink battlefield. Every time the Black Ink clan attacked any of the Great Passes, massive numbers of living beings would lose their lives. If the number of deaths and the strength of the fall cultivators were related to the criteria for the projections of the universe furnace to appear, then the Black Ink battlefield undoubtedly met these requirements. By that logic, had the projections of the universe furnace always appeared on the Black Ink battlefield whenever the universe furnace manifested in the world in the past? In that case, the so-called storm of bloodshed could be explained. It was not caused by the internal struggles among the human race, but the confrontation between the human race and the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai suddenly recalled that he had obtained a few innate open heaven pills from the Blood Monster Divine Palace in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. After he left the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, Lan Yu Ruo had gone into retreat and attempted to advance to the 7th Order Open Heaven realm. Yang Kai had given her an innate open heaven pill to help boost her chances of success, but she ultimately did not need it. He later took the time to examine those innate open heaven pills carefully and discovered that the medicinal efficacies were indeed more potent and profound compared to ordinary open heaven pills. However, they did not contain any miraculous effects. He then proceeded to toss them somewhere and forgot about them. At the time, Yang Kai speculated that those open heaven pills were too old and had not been preserved properly, which caused their medicinal efficacies to deteriorate over the millennia. He had felt a slight sense of regret, thinking that Blood Monster Divine Monarch had wasted such precious resources. Looking back now, he realized that the medicinal efficacies of the innate open heaven pills should not have deteriorated even if they were improperly preserved. The only explanation was that those open heaven pills themselves were not as miraculous as the rumors proclaimed. In that case, where did the rumors about the universe furnace that were passed down from ancient times come from? Also, the Blood Monster Divine Monarch. Since he managed to obtain innate open heaven pills, did that mean he had the opportunity to compete for the universe furnace? Be that as it may, he had clearly never gone to the Black Ink battlefield before. Where did he get the opportunity to compete for the universe furnace? He was not from the cave heavens or paradises after all. How did he obtain the qualifications for the opportunity? Looks like it's time for me to have a chat with Bloodcrow. Yang Kai silently made up his mind. He was certain he could gain a lot from speaking with Bloodcrow, but he had to escape from this place first. Yang Kai was getting excited when Mo Na finally thought of a topic worth mentioning. Brother Yang, don't you think this place is a little strange? Yang Kai replied indifferently, a supreme treasure is present. It's only natural for something strange to happen. Mo Na nodded, that's true. The space here is extremely twisted and distorted. Since it comes from the projection of the universe furnace's true body, then there must be a close connection between them. You are proficient in the Tao of space, Brother Yang. Why don't you try to trace it back to its source and locate the universe furnace's true body? You might find something if you can do that. Yang Kai glanced at Mo Na in surprise. To be honest, he had not considered such a possibility. It was more accurate to say that he had not even considered things from this angle in the first place. Mo Na must have been forced into a desperate situation for him to come up with such a great idea. Thus, Yang Kai nodded at Mo Na in respect. Although I know you don't have the best intentions, just this idea alone is worth 3 lives. Mo Na did not know what expression to make, so he simply squeezed out a forced smile. This thought had indeed been an impromptu idea, but he had to admit he had another purpose. If Yang Kai could use the Tao of space to determine the location of the universe furnace's true body, then the Black Ink clan could prepare specific countermeasures in a targeted manner. Therefore, Mo Na immediately concentrated on the movements around Yang Kai. He watched intently as Yang Kai sat down cross-legged and surged his space principles in an attempt to trace the mysterious roots of this place. Yang Kai initially had little gain from his efforts. The space in this place was extremely warped and distorted. Even if he could use his understanding of the Tao of space to eliminate the influence of this warped space on his movements, he had little success in tracing the roots of the strange phenomenon occurring here. Nevertheless, he suddenly recalled his cow punch secret technique. The principle of cow punch was to track the enemy's aura back to its source. It was a secret technique specifically made to target the small universe of his enemies. He even managed to slaughter a 9th Order Black Ink disciple with this secret technique. If something as ethereal as a small universe can be traced back to the roots, what more the true body of the universe furnace? Yang Kai acted as soon as the thought occurred to him. The space principles around his body became more and more ethereal, almost as though he was about to melt into the void. He slowly moved his hands as though plucking at invisible strings, trying to trace everything back to its origin. While Yang Kai was working hard, the Black Ink clansmen were secretly communicating with each other through a constant stream of divine sense transmissions. Although Mo-Na-Yi had made an agreement with Yang Kai that the lives of each territory lord would be spared in exchange for a piece of information, the information provided was clearly far from enough. There were several dozen territory lords trapped in this place. How much information could Mo-Na-Yi realistically provide? At best, it would be amazing if Yang Kai could spare the lives of a dozen or so territory lords. As for the rest, they would not be able to escape his murderous reach. Hence, they had to come up with a self-protection strategy before Yang Kai started taking action. Otherwise, there was no guarantee whose life would be spared by Yang Kai. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5717, Chaotic Space. At this time, the best option was to attack Yang Kai while he was distracted. Unfortunately, the territory lords were under the effects of the folded space, so how could they attack him when they couldn't even approach him? It was even more impossible for them to escape from this space. Trapped in this place and affected by the layers of overlapping space, they were no different from flies caught in a spiderweb. It was truly a pathetic situation. Despite much deliberation, the Black Ink clan could not figure out a solution to their miserable situation. The realization filled them with an inexplicable sense of sorrow. Without warning, the void suddenly trembled like the surface of a beaten drum. The vibration was so strong that all the trapped territory lords could feel the movement clearly. Startled, they looked around in bewilderment and discovered that the source of the trembling seemed to be coming from Yang Kai's direction. Yang Kai's eyes were tightly closed. In the space around him, space principles fluctuated and various Tao strengths danced. When he pointed a finger forward, countless ripples spread out from his position. The ripples continued on endlessly, extending into the inexplicable depths of the void. As time passed, the number of ripples grew. Even the trembling in the local space became increasingly violent. Mo-Na-Yi suddenly had a bad feeling that his suggestion for Yang Kai to track the traces of the universe furnace back to their source had been an extremely terrible decision. Just as the thought crossed his mind, he abruptly felt a sense of crisis flooding his heart. He hastily surged his black ink strength and condensed a layer of defense around himself. In the next moment, he felt an invisible and intangible force slicing across his body, cutting through the black ink strength condensed around his figure, and carving into his flesh. In spite of his immense strength, Mo-Na-Yi felt a stabbing pain burst through his body. He quickly shifted his position and looked back. At the spot where he had been standing earlier, a portion of the space slid sideways like a piece of broken mirror before quickly returning to normal. The force that had sliced across his body earlier was a tiny void crack. His expression changed drastically at the sight and he hurriedly shouted, "Brother Yang, please stop." The territory lords did not know why Mo-Na-Yi was panicking all of a sudden, so they all turned to look in his direction. At that moment, one of the territory lords abruptly felt an inexplicable sense of pain in his body. His vision seemed to tilt to the side, then turned upside down. What entered his sight was a body that had been cleanly sliced into two at a diagonal angle. The incision at the wound was as smooth as the edges of a mirror, and black blood gushed out from the opening. This severed body looks so familiar. A strange thought entered his mind, but he quickly came to a realization, "Isn't that my body?" He lowered his head to look and sure enough, his lower half had been severed. Everything was so sudden that he failed to notice any abnormality before. Terrified, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Sir Mo-Na-Yi, save me." But what could Mo-Na-Yi do? At this moment, Mo-Na-Yi looked so gloomy that he was practically oozing depression. He could only watch helplessly as the two parts of the territory lord's body separated. Although the territory lord's blood poured out continuously, his vitality was very strong, so it would take some time before he died. The space has become chaotic. Defend yourselves with all your might. Mo-Na-Yi called out loudly. After hearing Mo-Na-Yi's warning, the territory lord finally came back to their senses and hastily summoned their strength to guard themselves. Although Mo-Na-Yi did not know what Yang Kai was doing, his perception was not wrong. The whole space had gotten extremely chaotic due to Yang Kai's actions. This was a strange place formed by the distortion of countless layers of space folded over each other in the first place. These layers of folded space resembled pieces of a broken mirror that fit well together in the beginning. In short, There were no issues with the original arrangement as things were relatively static, or at least changing at a slow pace. However, the space where these mirrors used to be pieced together had now become mobile and disordered due to Yang Kai's actions. The upper body of the dead territory lord had been located in one of the layers of the folded space, while his lower body had been located in a different one. When the two layers of folded space abruptly separated due to the distortion, his body had also been sliced apart as a result. Territory lords were very strong, and if they had been at their peak strength, it would have been impossible for them to be sliced apart so easily. Unfortunately, the territory lords here were all arrows at the end of their flight, on top of being heavily wounded. In this situation, they were completely defenseless against such a strange attack. Nobody knew whether their position was safe because the layers of folded space shifted around at random. Screams of agony periodically rang out from among the territory lords. It was a pity, but black ink strength condensed around their bodies could hardly stop the sharp space principles from slicing them apart. Within a short span of time, more territory lords lost their lives as their bodies were severed into pieces. This situation left Mo Na feeling both horrified and furious. "Brother Yang, please stop quickly." At this moment, he deeply regretted his earlier word. Why did I suggest Yang Kai trace the location of the universe furnace's true body with his mastery over the Tao of space? Space was an extremely mysterious Tao in the first place, and the space here was already so peculiar. Nothing good would happen to Black Ink clan masters like themselves after Yang Kai began fiddling with it. Suddenly, there was another scream. Mo Na glanced over only and saw the body of another territory lord separating into two parts. The territory lord's eyes were filled with pure terror and resentment. He did not expect to lose his life in such an inexplicable manner after managing to survive so many crises until now. "Brother Yang!" Mo Na roared angrily. "Shut up." Yang Kai did not even bother to open his eyes. Although he was concentrating fully on tracing the location of the universe furnace's true body, he retained some awareness of the surrounding situation. He had not expected the current situation to occur, but it was quite a stroke of good fortune for him. How could he give up just because Mo Na asked him to stop? In any case, their previous agreement indicated that he only needed to spare the lives of a dozen or so territory lords. As for the others, it would be even better for him if all of them died. It would even save him the trouble of killing them himself. Mo Na gritted his teeth and suppressed the anger in his heart. They were enemies in the first place, not to mention they were engaged in a life-and-death clash just a few months ago. What was the point of begging Yang Kai now? All Mo Na could do was record his loss for today. If he had a chance in the future, he would return the debt 100-fold. The territory lords were tense and nervous. Although they constantly changed positions while simultaneously activating their power to protect themselves, the attacks caused by the distortion of space came with no warning whatsoever. It was very difficult to defend against these attacks. In the end, those destined for death would lose their lives no matter how hard they tried. Even Mo Na was inadvertently wounded. Fortunately for him, he was strong and in good condition, so there was no threat to his life for the time being. But it was hard to say what would happen if the situation dragged on. It was hard to tell how much time had passed. More than a dozen territory lords had lost their lives by now, and the space within the projection of the universe furnace was scattered with severed limbs. The wounds on these severed limbs were extremely smooth, and a large amount of black blood now floated around in the void. Yang Kai suddenly paused with a slight frown on his face. It was not that he could no longer continue his search or that he had not gained anything from his efforts. The truth was that he had indeed been able to trace the universe furnace's aura, but it was difficult for him to determine its exact location. More importantly, Yang Kai had a feeling that something beyond his control would happen if he persisted in his attempt. It was difficult to deduce whether the phenomenon would be good or bad, but he had the feeling that it was not very dangerous since he did not detect any warning signals. To be on the safe side though, he decided to stop while he was ahead. Yang Kai looked up at the disheveled Mo Na with an almost imperceptible light flashing through his eyes. A group of territory lords had tragically lost their lives during the events earlier, while even a pseudo-royal lord like Mo Na had been wounded, although the latter's injuries did not seem serious. There was no denying that Yang Kai was no match for a pseudo-royal lord like Mo Na in a one-on-one battle, but his proficiency in the Tao of Space meant that Mo Na could not hurt him either when he was at his peak. Now however, Yang Kai might just have a chance to kill Mo Na in this space within the projection of the universe furnace. If he carried on with his previous exploration, he could cause constant damage to Mo Na. Then, he would make his move when Mo Na's injuries had accumulated to a critical degree. Let's see if he can survive that. Mo Na regarded Yang Kai as an enormous threat to the Black Ink clan. How could Yang Kai not be wary of Mo Na? Mo Na could be considered an anomaly in the Black Ink clan. If Yang Kai could remove Mo Na from the equation, Royal Lord Mo would lose an exceptionally dependable helper. In the future, the human race would also have one less threat to worry about in the final war. I have to thank Mo Na for suggesting such a convenient and effective method to me. Seeming to sense the malice in Yang Kai's gaze, Mo Na's expression changed slightly. They had been enemies for so many years now, so how could he fail to realize what Yang Kai was thinking? He suddenly felt bitter and resentful. His suggestion not only caused heavy casualties to the territory lords, but he might also have doomed himself to a miserable death. The entire situation left a bitter taste in his mouth. At the same time, he couldn't help feeling as though he had lifted a rock only to smash it onto his foot. Yang Kai chuckled and slowly climbed to his feet when their gazes met. Under the watchful gaze of Mo Na and the many territory lords, he leisurely walked towards the outside. The distorted and folded space did not hinder his movement. It did not take long before he arrived at the edge of the projection. "Are you leaving, Brother Yang?" In the end, Mo Na could not stop himself and blurted out the question. It would be wondrous news if Yang Kai were to leave this place, but how could Yang Kai possibly depart so easily? He had clearly seen the malice in Yang Kai's eyes earlier. "What? Do you expect me to stay behind and chat with you instead?" Yang Kai replied without much thought. Thanks to his mastery of the Tao of Space, he easily stepped out of the folded space. Seeing that scene, Mo Na felt a strange feeling wash over him. This guy. It turns out that he could have really left at any time. Trapped inside this space within the projection, even a pseudo-royal lord like Mo Na was powerless. He couldn't find a way out, but it was no trouble for Yang Kai at all. While he did not know the meaning behind Yang Kai's actions, Yang Kai's departure was good news for him. At the very least, he would no longer be in danger once Yang Kai was gone. Besides, he had secretly made arrangements in advance. As long as Yang Kai dared to stray far enough, then those arrangements would come in handy. Mo Na stared after Yang Kai's back expectantly, hoping that Yang Kai would venture further into the distance. However, Yang Kai only took 2 steps before he abruptly turned to look in a certain direction and shouted, "Mo Yu, I spared the lives of your territory lords, yet you dare try to ambush me?" As soon as those words rang out, Mo Na's expression changed drastically. "Were we discovered? That's impossible. I even specially warned them not to expose their whereabouts when I asked the royal lord to set up an ambush nearby with the territory lord. Not to mention, he had secretly observed his surroundings and confirmed that the Black Ink clansmen had hidden themselves very well. It was impossible for them to be discovered so quickly, so how did Yang Kai discover them? There were indeed reinforcements that Mo Na had arranged beforehand outside the projection. The greatest difficulty in dealing with an enemy like Yang Kai was his space secret techniques. Even if they were stronger than him, it was meaningless if they could neither capture him nor restrain him. For example, the Black Ink clan once had an opportunity to annihilate Yang Kai in the Divine Spirit ancestral land. Unfortunately, Di Wu had wasted the opportunity back then. When Mo Na chased Yang Kai into this strange place several months ago, he quickly realized that he had been tricked. At the same time, he was keenly aware that this was a rare opportunity to remove Yang Kai once and for all. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5718, Checkmate. Yang Kai had been severely wounded at the time. Eager to treat his injuries, he had trapped himself inside the projection to recuperate from his wounds. Nevertheless, there was no denying that he could not move around freely for some time. For that reason, Mo Na Yi had used the miniature black ink nest to contact the no-return pass and asked the royal lord to set up an ambush nearby with some black ink clan masters. Since the royal lord took charge of defending the no-return pass, he had not left it again. The only exception was when Yang Kai caused a ruckus in the no-return pass and the royal lord chased after him, resulting in only greater disaster. After that debacle, the royal lord never left the no-return pass again, especially when Yang Kai began loitering around nearby as the latter posed a massive threat. Mo Yu subsequently became the most important force which ensured the safety and stability of the no-return pass. Nobody knew when Yang Kai might suddenly cause another ruckus. Under these circumstances, how could Mo Yu dare to leave the no-return pass at will? He was practically a hostage to Yang Kai's whims, unable to move around freely whatsoever. Be that as it may, Mo Na Yi had mobilized the one and only royal lord in the Black Ink clan in this endeavor to ensure the success of his plans. It could be seen that his determination and courage were unordinary. In addition, there were many innate territory lords who had been transferred here from the front lines. They were hiding in the shadows and waiting for the signal to attack. Everything had been prepared in advance. As long as Yang Kai escaped from this prison, they would unleash an unrestrained assault on him. There was only one inconvenient factor in these plans, and that was this strange space within the projection. According to Mo Na Yi's speculations, there was a high probability that Yang Kai could come and go freely from this space, and was essentially invulnerable once inside of it. If Yang Kai was to detect any danger when he left the confines of this prison, he could simply seek shelter inside again to protect himself. After all, this strange and eerie space within the projection was practically a natural fortress to him. Therefore, Mo Na Yi and Mo Yu had secretly discussed their plans in advance. They decided to wait until Yang Kai was some distance away from the projection before the royal lord made his move to keep Yang Kai as busy as possible for some time. Doing so, the territory lords who were carrying the necessary array boards and banners would have enough time to establish the heaven-sealing earth-locking grand array. Once the grand array was activated, Yang Kai would be trapped in place with no hope to escape. At that time, Mo Yu could freely annihilate Yang Kai. The plan could be said to be foolproof in all aspects. Although there was no guarantee for a 100% success rate, the estimated success rate was in the 70% range. It was enough for the Black Ink clan to take a gamble and risk the possible dangers. The crux of this entire plan rested on how long Mo Yu could keep Yang Kai distracted. As long as he could delay Yang Kai for long enough, their plans would work perfectly. Therefore, Mo Na Yi was excited to see Yang Kai leaving the projection even though he did not understand the reason for Yang Kai's sudden departure. Never did he imagine that his plans would be exposed before the trap could even be implemented, much less that the reason would be Mo Yu's failure to conceal his aura completely. Wait, that can't be right. It's impossible for the royal lord to be unable to conceal his aura. I've warned all of them so many times, not to mention, the Black Ink clan has repeatedly suffered defeat at Yang Kai's hands. There is no way the royal lord would relax his guard towards Yang Kai. Damn it, Yang Kai tricked us again. At that instant, Mo Na Yi realized the truth and opened his mouth to issue a warning, however, he was too late. A majestic aura erupted from somewhere in the void. The emergence of the aura was quickly followed by a black light that flew towards Yang Kai at the speed of lightning. Mo Na Yi closed his eyes in sorrow. The sounds of battle between masters rang out from outside the projection, mixed with Yang Kai's grunts. When Mo Na Yi opened his eyes again, he saw that Yang Kai had retreated back into the space within the projection. Meanwhile, Royal Lord Mo Yu stood quietly outside the projection with a pair of fleshy wings spread out behind his back. Countless bone spurs that resembled fangs protruded from his wings, making him seem absolutely terrifying. Yang Kai's arms were trembling uncontrollably, blood dripping profusely from them. He had suffered a direct blow from a true royal lord and nearly broke both his arms as a result, but instead of frowning, he was laughing. Furthermore, his laughter sounded extremely mocking. Royal Lord Mo Yu stood outside the projection with a grim expression and scowled at Yang Kai for a while. Glancing at Mo Na Yi's dull look, Mo Yu seemed to understand something and snorted coldly. It was not that he was easily deceived. The truth was the exact opposite. The Black Ink clan simply had too much vigilance towards Yang Kai. When Yang Kai spoke just now, Mo Yu's first instinct was that he had been discovered. Everything would be for naught once Yang Kai activated space principles and escaped, hence, he believed that he would miss the opportunity to make his move if he did not attack now. It was the reason why he had acted so decisively. Unfortunately, Yang Kai was only a short distance away from the projection. Although he was struck by the unexpected blow, he had quickly retreated back into the projection. Numerous figures appeared from their hiding spots and slowly gathered around Mo Yu. These figures were all innate territory lords. They were originally supposed to set up the 4 Gates 8 Palaces Great Pagoda Array while the royal lord was keeping Yang Kai busy. However, they no longer knew what to do in this situation and could only wait quietly for further orders from the royal lord. Staring at Mo Yu through the projection, Yang Kai swung his arms lightly. Then, he chuckled and turned to look back at Mo Nayi. The Black Ink clan sure is hospitable. Mo Nayi responded calmly. There was no need for you to test the waters if you already expected an ambush, Brother Yang. You could have just asked me, and I would have given you an honest answer. At this moment, Mo Nayi was certain about one thing. Yang Kai had predicted that he would make various secret arrangements in advance. That was why he had taken the initiative to step out of the projection as an experiment, and the results revealed that his predictions were indeed extremely accurate. Just as how Mo Nayi had a deep understanding of Yang Kai's character, Yang Kai also had a good grasp of Mo Nayi's thought process after so many years of rivalry. In fact, it would be strange for the Black Ink clan to ignore such a great opportunity. Who could have known whether you were speaking the truth? There are some things one can only learn after seeing it with their own eyes. Mo Nayi, you have deeply disappointed me. Yang Kai shook his head slowly. I was going to spare the lives of these territory lords, but it looks like I cannot afford to be merciful towards the Black Ink clan. Mo Nayi smiled indifferently. The Black Ink clan has already sacrificed so many innate territory lords just to annihilate you, Brother Yang. Losing a few more wouldn't make a difference. His statement made the trapped territory lords turn pale with fright. Meanwhile, he continued talking, but, Brother Yang, what difference does it make even if you slaughtered all the territory lords trapped inside this space? Will that help you escape? Indeed, there is nothing the Black Ink clan can do to you at the moment. However, this space will eventually return to normal once the projection completely solidifies in 2 years. At that time, the Black Ink clan will only need to prepare a grand array in advance. With the royal lord personally leading the attack, you will be nothing more than a turtle hiding in its shell. Brother Yang, this place is where you will meet your doom. Mo Yu, who had been standing quietly outside the projection, decisively issued the order when he heard those words, set up the formation. The territory lords standing idly behind him immediately scattered in all directions and surrounded the local region where the projection was located with the Grand Array banners in their hands. It did not take long before the 4 Gates 8 Palaces Great Pagoda Array was formed, sealing this section of the void. Mo Yu stared at the projection in front of him, eager to charge forward. Although he had heard about the strangeness of this space from Mo Nayi, he was tempted to enter the space anyway. Nevertheless, he decided to give up on the idea after further consideration. Mo Nayi was not very different from him in terms of raw strength, the only difference being that the latter could only exert about 80% of his maximum power. Seeing as the trapped Mo Nayi was absolutely incapable of attacking Yang Kai inside the space, Mo Yu realized that he would most likely face the same situation if he were to enter. Hence, he decided not to embarrass himself with futile actions. This strange space was not something that could be overcome with strength alone. While the territory lords were busy preparing the grand array, Yang Kai simply watched quietly without trying to stop them. In any case, there was nothing he could do to stop them even if he wanted to. It was just as Mo Nayi had said, the current situation was a death sentence to him. The heaven-sealing earth-locking grand array had sealed the space around him. Once he lost the protection provided by the universe furnace's projection, he would have to face Mo Yu directly. A situation like that would only lead to a disastrous ending for him. The projection was slowly becoming solid over time, and at this rate, it would probably fully manifest after 2 years. When that happened, Yang Kai would become vulnerable to the attacks of the many Black Ink clan masters surrounding him. There had been many opportunities and coincidences inside the divine spirit ancestral land. Not to mention, the ancestral land had been favorable to him. That was how Yang Kai managed to escape the crisis and even kill a master like Di Wu back then, leaving the Black Ink clan with nothing to show for its efforts. Unfortunately, there were no external factors or geographical advantages that he could rely upon here. No matter how strong he was, how could he be stronger than a true royal lord? At this moment, many of the Black Ink clansmen were certain of their victory even though they were trapped. On the contrary, Yang Kai's future was bleak even though he seemed as unrestrained as a fish in water. Be it Yang Kai or the Black Ink clan, neither party knew that the projection would transform into an entrance to the universe furnace after the projection solidified completely. They also did not know that the universe furnace contained a sealed world, and the so-called opportunity had to be obtained inside of it. In other words, the Black Ink clan's efforts were futile no matter how well made their plans were. Nevertheless, for Yang Kai who lacked this information, he was indeed stuck in a desperate situation. He had no means to escape in the face of absolute power. It could even be said that he had fallen right into the Black Ink clan's trap when he decided to plunge into this space within the projection. It was a pity that he had no other choice under the circumstances back then. Not only had he been an arrow at the end of its flight, but he was also being pursued by Mo Na Yi. He had urgently needed a place where he could properly treat his wounds, so plunging into the projection had been his only choice. Narrowing his eyes slightly, he grinned at Mo Na Yi. "I'm guessing you have a suggestion for me." Mo Na Yi laughed. "You know me well, Brother Yang. Speak." He bluntly said, "Sit quietly, don't do anything unnecessary, and restrain your aura. You might have a chance of survival in 2 years if you do that, Brother Yang." Yang Kai inquired, "And where would that chance of survival come from?" Mo Na Yi replied, "That would depend entirely on how Sir Royal Lord plans to deal with you. If Sir Royal Lord considers you a threat, you will probably lose your life. But, if Sir Royal Lord intends to spare your life so that you can contribute to the Black Ink clan instead, corrupting you with the Black Ink strength is not a bad idea either." Mo Na Yi was undoubtedly an intelligent man. Standing in front of the Royal Lord, he carefully made sure not to mention anything absolute. He always framed his words so that the final decision was up to Mo Yu. The same was true when they set up the Grand Array earlier. Instead of directly issuing the orders to set up the Grand Array himself, Mo Na Yi simply dropped some hints here and there so that Mo Yu would understand immediately. After all, issuing the orders directly would have put him under suspicion of overstepping his boundaries. It was for this reason that Mo Yu had handed all authority over the Black Ink clan to Mo Na Yi for so many years without any concern. Mo Na Yi knew his place and limits. In that regard, Meng Qiu, who was also a pseudo-royal lord, was not nearly as quick-witted. Outside the projection, Mo Yu announced graciously, "I know you have a treasure in your small universe that prevents the corruption of Black Ink strength. If you sacrifice this treasure and allow me to personally corrupt you with the Black Ink strength, then I will spare your life." Yang Kai laughed at those words. Lifting his slightly swollen arms, he casually cupped his fists. "In that case, allow me to thank you for the great consideration you've shown me, Sir Royal Lord." Martial Peak, Chapter 5719, Death Before Dishonor. For the Black Ink clan, it would definitely be highly beneficial if they could turn Yang Kai into a Black Ink disciple. He was powerful, after all. If he could contribute to the Black Ink clan, he would be a significant boost in strength for them. Furthermore, he was part of the human race's higher-ups with extensive knowledge of their activities, so he would be able to provide the Black Ink clan with substantial inside information. More importantly, he had become a living symbol of hope to the human race over the years. Not only was his name practically a legend throughout the various Great Territory battlefields, but his outstanding achievements were also highly praised and admired by soldiers and civilians alike. In fact, his very existence struck fear into the hearts of all Black Ink clansmen. If such a symbol were to switch sides and turn upon his former comrades, it would be a huge blow to the morale of the human race. The Black Ink clan could not care less about ordinary 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters, but they would willingly fight for the chance to corrupt Yang Kai with Black Ink strength. There was more value in converting a person like Yang Kai into a black ink disciple than killing him directly. When confronting Yang Kai in the past, Mo Yu had never even dreamt about corrupting him with black ink strength. He did not have that ability, after all. Even his chances of killing Yang Kai were slim to none. Be that as it may, the emergence of the universe furnace's projection had turned the impossible into a possibility. He couldn't help becoming rather excited about such a prospect. On the other hand, Mo Na discerned the mocking tone in Yang Kai's words and gave a heavy sigh. "Brother Yang, why must you be so stubborn?" Yang Kai answered lightly, "Our paths are different, so it's impossible for us to truly cooperate with each other." He turned to look at Mo Na. "In any case, it is no loss for me if I drag a pseudo-royal lord and dozens of innate territory lords into the grave with me. Mo Na, between you and me, let's see which of us dies first." Mo Na's expression immediately darkened. In the next moment, Yang Kai began surging his space principles along with various Tao strengths, causing the space within the universe furnace's projection to become chaotic once more. The expressions of the trapped territory lords changed drastically at the sight. After their previous experience, how could they not know what was about to happen to them? They hastily drew upon their strength to protect themselves and became vigilant of their surroundings. Mo Na shouted, "Yang Kai, the human race has these sayings: a wise man will submit to the circumstances, and, where there is life, there is hope." No matter how calm he seemed on the surface or how confident he was of Yang Kai's eventual defeat, he was the first to panic when Yang Kai showed so little regard for life. He desperately tried to persuade Yang Kai otherwise, hoping to arouse Yang Kai's desire to live. That was because he knew that the situation would not end well for him if Yang Kai continued in this manner. At this rate, he would not survive to see the end of the war, regardless of Yang Kai's eventual fate. It was indeed difficult for Yang Kai to be his opponent in a one-on-one battle, but that was on the premise that both of them were at their peak strength. If Yang Kai utilized the strange effects in this space to inflict heavy injuries onto him, then attacked once he was considerably weaker, Mo Na did not have the confidence to defend himself. At this moment, his life was tied to Yang Kai's. If he wanted to live, then he could not let Yang Kai die. Yang Kai laughed loudly. "There's another popular saying among us humans. Have you heard of the saying, 'It is better to have a piece of broken jade than lose a complete tile'? I'd rather die a glorious death than live on in dishonor." The fluctuations of space principles became increasingly violent. Under his efforts to trace the roots of the universe furnace, the space within the projection began to tremble and become disordered. The terrified screams of the territory lords rang out endlessly as a result. Even Mo Na was not spared. Streams of black blood constantly gushed out of his body, and the black ink strength protecting his figure was sliced to pieces by the chaotic space. He kept moving about and changing position, but that barely slowed the pace of his injuries. All of a sudden, a territory lord screamed in agony. His body had been sliced cleanly in two and black blood gushed out of his wound. After suffering this critical blow, which caused him to lose all ability to protect himself, the two halves of his body were quickly carved into fragmented pieces. His screams gradually weakened, and his aura faded away. One after another, the territory lords were reduced to severed limbs and torn flesh due to the effects of the disordered space. At the same time, their auras gradually withered away into nothing. Outside the projection, Mo Yu watched the situation in distress, so furious that he was practically spitting fire from his eyes. Mo Na had previously mobilized hundreds of innate territory lords as bait to besiege Yang Kai. Although many of these territory lords had died in battle, their deaths had value. Their sacrifice created an opportunity for Mo Na to remove Yang Kai once and for all. Therefore, Mo Yu had not stopped Mo Na even though the sacrifices distressed him. He had tacitly allowed Mo Na to proceed with the plan. However, the deaths of those territory lords were meaningless now. The reason they went through the immense trouble of sneaking out of the primordial heaven's source grand restriction and traveling for a dozen years just to arrive at the no-return pass was to contribute to the Black Ink clan's future prosperity. They had not come here just to die in vain. As things stood, nothing would change no matter how furious Mo Yu became. Although both parties seemed to be separated by a few steps, it was as though they were living in two different worlds. He could not interfere with anything that was happening inside the projection. The space within the projection continued to tremble without end. The layers of folded space shifted in a chaotic manner, constantly bringing harm to the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai had done this before. At the time, he stopped after causing the deaths of a dozen or so territory lords. That was because he had the vague feeling that something unpredictable would happen if the space within the projection remained turbulent for too long. The reason for the turbulence in the projection was the secret technique that he used to trace the location of the universe furnace's true body. The universe furnace's true body was hidden at some unknown location. It was because he was tracking the traces in reverse that the space within the projection became so disturbed and chaotic. If he wanted the space within the projection to keep oscillating, then he had to keep tracking the traces of the universe furnace's true body. In this way, some things would be rather difficult to predict. In reality, the other projections scattered throughout the different places were experiencing the same situation when Yang Kai was causing the space within the projection to shake and become disordered. The universe furnace's true body itself was being affected, so the feedback was reflected in its projections. The masters of both the human race and the Black Ink clan, who were closely monitoring the movements of the universe furnace's projection, could not understand the reason for the strange phenomenon. They did not understand what was happening to the universe furnace. In the suppressing Black Ink fortress located outside the primordial heaven's source Grand Restriction, many of the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters were also at a loss. Yang Xiao asked Fu Guang for guidance. "Senior, what is happening? Why is the universe furnace experiencing such a strange development?" Fu Guang secretly thought to himself, "If you ask me, who am I supposed to ask?" The Dragon Clan did not know much about the universe furnace since there was no need for them to enter it and compete for opportunities. Besides, this was also the first time a projection of the universe furnace had appeared in front of him. As for why the space within the universe furnace's projection was trembling and disordered, it was only natural that he was as baffled as the others. After much deliberation, he could only claim that the heavens were unpredictable. His statement left the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters extremely confused. In the supreme headquarters of the human race, Mi Jing Lun read through the numerous messages that had been sent with a frown on his face. Then, he looked up at Bloodcrow, who was sitting beside him with a dense layer of aura lingering around his body. Is it normal for the universe furnace to experience strange developments before the projection becomes completely solidified? Bloodcrow was puzzled. What kind of strange developments? Mi Jing Lun handed the report over. Bloodcrow took the report and glanced through the contents briefly before he shook his head. "I've never heard of such developments before. I don't think this happened last time." "You don't think?" Mi Jing Lun stared at Bloodcrow fixedly. Bloodcrow looked slightly apologetic. Scratching his lower jaw, he explained himself, "Sir, as you know, I am not from any of the cave heavens or paradises. During the universe furnace's last appearance, an entrance happened to emerge in the 3,000 worlds. The cultivators in the 3,000 worlds were lucky enough to receive an opportunity to enter and explore the universe furnace, but the masters of the cave heavens and paradises were naturally the first to enter. Moreover, I was only in the 7th Order at the time and was placed at the outermost edges, being among the last to enter the universe furnace. As far as I can recall though, nothing strange occurred to the universe furnace's projection last time. It remained very stable, from the day it appeared to the day it became completely solidified." Mi Jing Lun nodded lightly, but he had a slightly worried look on his face. There had to be a reason for this unexpected situation to have happened. It was a pity that the human race had such a poor understanding of the universe furnace. Although Bloodcrow had personally experienced the phenomenon in the past, the reality was just as he said. His situation at the time was rather awkward as he was not a disciple of the cave heavens and paradises. Adding to that, he was only in the 7th Order at the time. Even though he managed to enter the universe furnace, the information he possessed was not comprehensive. Be that as it may, the information that he provided recently had been extremely helpful to the human race. At the very least, the human race far surpassed the Black Ink clan in terms of understanding of the internal environment of the universe furnace and the opportunities waiting for them inside. This information was invaluable to their current planning. Meanwhile, the innate territory lords died one after another inside the projection located outside the no-return pass. Only half of them remained alive right now, and under Yang Kai's constant influence, the vibration and the disorder in the space continued to intensify. The lives of the territory lords were hanging by a thread. Those who survived were not stronger than those who died earlier, they were just luckier than the rest. At this point, nobody knew when they might be the next unlucky one to meet their demise. The movement of the chaotic space came and went without warning. No matter how hard they struggled, they could not discern any clues whatsoever. All they could do was protect themselves as best as they could. Even so, their efforts were to no avail. Their condition was poor in the first place. Combined with the distortion of the chaotic space, they could not defend themselves from the injuries caused by the shifting of the folding space. Among the territory lords who survived by luck, many were missing arms and legs. They were as miserable as they could possibly be. In the beginning, they cried out for Mo Na to save them, but they no longer shouted anymore, having realized that it was useless. Mo Na couldn't even protect himself at the moment. It was only thanks to his immense cultivation that he was not in danger yet. Nevertheless, he was covered in wounds. Even his aura, which had initially been at its peak, had reduced considerably. If this were to continue, he would soon be facing the threat of death. After becoming a pseudo-royal lord more than 1,000 years ago, Mo Na never imagined that he would be in such dire straits one day. The reason he tried so hard was that he wanted to gain the capital to influence the future of the war between the Black Ink clan and the human race. That was why he even risked his life to perform the source fusion technique and became a pseudo-royal lord. As a pseudo-royal lord, it was impossible for his life to be threatened unless he encountered a ninth-order open heaven realm master. Therefore, he had faced Yang Kai over the years from the standpoint of somebody who was superior in strength. The worst outcome for his schemes and calculations was failure. As long as the royal lord continued to trust in him, he would not be implicated in any danger. To his horror, Mo Na abruptly realized something crucial at this moment. Even though he was a pseudo-royal lord, he could barely protect himself in a confrontation against Yang Kai. Di Wu's death back then was not a fluke. Yang Kai had always been capable of creating unimaginable miracles when he was caught in a desperate situation. Take this incident for example. There was nothing wrong with Mo Na's schemes and everything had gone smoothly at the start. However, the universe furnace's projection just had to appear nearby and the space within the projection just had to be so strange. Worst of all, Yang Kai could even take advantage of the characteristics of this location to effortlessly slaughter the territory lords and threaten the life of a pseudo-royal lord like Mo Na. Brother Yang, tell me, what is it that you want? Please speak freely. This Mo Na will not refuse any request that can be satisfied. Why must we kill each other? At the critical moment between life and death, Mo Na finally broke down. If he did not figure out a method to break this stalemate, he would die first regardless of whether or not Yang Kai eventually survived. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5720, Is This What You Meant? Space principles along with various Tao strengths fluctuated wildly around Yang Kai as he coldly snorted, "You can't give me what I want." Mo Na calmed down upon hearing those words. He had been worried that Yang Kai would ignore him and refuse to speak to him. Since Yang Kai was talking to him, that could only mean that Yang Kai had a request to make. The crisis today might not be unresolvable. He immediately raised his voice and said, "So Royal Lord is right here. Even if this Mo Na is unable to satisfy your request, are you saying so Royal Lord would not be able to? But, Brother Yang, I hope you don't make any unrealistic demands." His greatest fear was that Yang Kai would demand that the Royal Lord commit suicide on the spot. If such words came out of Yang Kai's words, then communication between them would break down immediately. No matter how highly the Royal Lord valued Mo Na, it was impossible for him to value him more than himself. He would never harm himself just for Mo Na's sake. As soon as the words left Mo Na's mouth, Mo Yu, who was standing outside, hesitated for a moment before he agreed, "Negotiation is permissible. Mo Yu could tell that Mo Na was in a precarious situation, and it would be bad to lose such a capable subordinate. Throughout the years, the management of the Black Ink clan had been well organized under Mo Na. The only exception was this plan to besiege Yang Kai, which had resulted in heavy losses. Even so, there was nothing wrong with the plan itself. It was simply a huge coincidence for the projection of the universe furnace to appear at this time and place, which unfortunately gave Yang Kai a chance to catch his breath. In short, Mo Na was extremely capable and loyal. If there was a way to save Mo Na, then Mo Yu certainly would not mind taking a shot. When Yang Kai heard those words, the movements of his hands gradually slowed down. The territory lords, who were exhausted from running around, were secretly relieved to witness the sight. A short while later, Yang Kai quickly said, "Remove the surrounding grand array. I want to leave this place safely." Mo Na turned to glance at Mo Yu. The latter pondered for some time before he finally nodded in agreement. "Good. I can remove the grand array. I can even lead all the territory lords away. Just stop what you're doing." Yang Kai shook his head. "I don't trust you. Even if you leave this place, who can guarantee that you will not sneak back here in secret? I have experienced the strength of a royal lord in the past. How am I supposed to defend myself if you attack me after I leave this place? In that situation, you will only need to keep me busy for a short time until the grand array is formed again." Mo Yu quickly said, "I will not go back on my word." Yang Kai snorted in disdain. Mo Yu had agreed so readily, so it was obvious he was plotting against him. There was one thing Yang Kai knew for sure: if he left the space within the projection, the other party would definitely attack. It would be troublesome if his enemies cut off his escape routes and then concentrate on fighting him. Mo Yu snapped impatiently, "What do you want? How are you going to leave if you want to leave but refuse to leave?" Mo Na persuaded, "Brother Yang, the royal lord is being quite sincere." Yang Kai replied, "Since he is being sincere, then he should do as I say. Otherwise, all negotiations are off the table." Mo Yu suppressed his rage and spoke in a cold voice, "Let's hear it." Yang Kai already had a plan in mind and immediately quipped, "I want the Black Ink clan to contact the front lines and pass a messenger Black Ink nest to the supreme headquarters. As for the rest, the Black Ink clan does not need to worry themselves with such matters." Under the current circumstances, he would require the escort of a human race master if he wanted to leave this place safely. However, he had no means to contact the human race at the moment. Borrowing a Black Ink nest for communication was the best solution in his situation. In this way, he could contact the human race directly and explain the situation here clearly. There was no need for many escorts. A single Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Master would be enough. Although his actions would expose the fact that there was a hidden Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Master among the human race, now that the universe furnace was about to emerge, that would soon happen anyways. In any case, the Black Ink clan had always guessed that there was a hidden Ninth Order Open Heaven Realm Master among the human race. It was just that they did not have concrete proof to support their suspicions. After listening to Yang Kai's demand, Mo Yu fell silent and Mo Na frowned deeply. They had to admit that Yang Kai's request was exceptionally simple. Be that as it may, the request was also extremely meticulous. There was no room for the Black Ink clan to secretly interfere. Mo Na couldn't help but sigh helplessly. He knew that the Royal Lord would never accept Yang Kai's demand. The reason the Royal Lord had been willing to remove the Grand Array and leave with the Territory Lords was that the resulting situation would have remained within his control. There had been a possibility of ambushing Yang Kai again. On the other hand, all their previous efforts would go to waste if they agreed to Yang Kai's demand and allowed him to contact the human race. More importantly, the Territory Lords would have died in vain. Yang Kai studied Mo Yu's expression and sneered, "Mo Na, it looks like the Royal Lord doesn't value you very much." Mo Na sighed lightly, "Now that things have reached this point, why bother trying to provoke discord, Brother Yang?" With a solemn expression, he turned and bowed respectfully in Mo Yu's direction, his voice steady and sonorous, "So Royal Lord, this plan has already cost the Black Ink clan hundreds of innate territory lords. You must not allow our previous efforts to go to waste just because of this subordinate, otherwise, even more territory lords will lose their lives in the future. Yang Kai is a great talent of the human race. It is necessary to annihilate him now, more than ever, especially since the universe furnace is about to appear in the world. If he were to obtain an opportunity from the universe furnace, he would surely become a catastrophe for the Black Ink clan in the future. Sir Royal Lord, regardless of whether this subordinate lives or dies today, you must not let the efforts of our many clansmen be in vain. I, Mo Na Yi, am willing to sacrifice my life in exchange for the life of the human race master, Yang Kai. His words were extremely sincere, and his voice resounded throughout the void. Mo Yu and the many innate territory lords outside the projection were deeply moved by his speech. There were very few people among the Black Ink clan who could disregard life and death for the greater good. Combined with his profound sense of righteousness, the Black Ink clansmen could not help feeling a sense of admiration towards him. Originally, many of these innate territory lords had held negative opinions towards Mo Na Yi. They were all innate territory lords after all, so none of them should have stood above anybody else. Many felt Mo Na Yi was simply lucky in that he succeeded in using the source fusion technique and took the last spot available for the position. After he became a pseudo-royal lord, he showed some measure of wit and intelligence that the royal lord appreciated, which was why he was put in charge of all matters regarding the Black Ink clan. However, over the years, he did not seem to gain anything from the war between the human race and his confrontation against Yang Kai. On the contrary, he caused heavy losses to the Black Ink clan. Anybody could have done that in his place. Nonetheless, many of these territory lords could not help but change their opinion of Mo Na Yi after listening to his speech. Leaving everything else aside, they could never bring themselves to speak such profound and righteous words or show such willingness to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Mo Yu glanced at Mo Na Yi, a hint of apology flashing through his eyes as his slight dissatisfaction towards Mo Na Yi over the heavy casualties among the territory lords dissipated into nothing. He had been hesitating, wondering whether he should follow Yang Kai's demand and allow the latter to contact the human race. Although that would allow a tiger to return to the mountain, he would be able to rescue his capable subordinate, Mo Na Yi. Nevertheless, Mo Yu made up his mind after listening to Mo Na Yi's little speech. Mo Na Yi was correct. Yang Kai was already a great threat to the Black Ink clan even though he was only in the 8th Order Open Heaven realm. Now that the universe furnace was about to appear, the consequences would be unimaginably dire if he were to escape and obtain an opportunity from the universe furnace. No matter what, no matter how great the price, Yang Kai must die here today. Mo Yu closed his eyes slightly. When he opened them again, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Yang Kai, if you stop now, I promise that I will only corrupt you with Black Ink strength. But, if you dare harm another one of our masters, I swear I will rip your corpse into 10,000 pieces when the time comes. Were you referring to this? While speaking, Yang Kai took a step forward. Nobody could see his movements clearly under the effects of the chaotic folding space. When he reappeared again, he was grasping a heavily wounded territory lord by the head in his large hand. The territory lord had been flustered from concentrating on defending against the attacks of the disordered space. As a result, he was caught completely off guard by Yang Kai. At this moment, he was fully immobilized and at Yang Kai's mercy. Yang Kai turned and stared into Mo Yu's eyes with a fierce look on his face. Then, he put some strength into his hand and the territory lord's head shattered in his grip. He had remained in one spot without moving, simply urging space principles to trace the location of the universe furnace's true body. However, he was actively making his move now. Mo Yu's ruthless threat was nothing but wind in his ears to him. Or, did you mean this? He asked once more. At the same time, he abruptly appeared behind another territory lord. He summoned the Azure Dragon Spear and pierced it through the territory lord's body. With a flick of his spear, world force erupted and the territory lord exploded into blood mist. After killing 7 or 8 territory lords in a row, Yang Kai finally stopped and glanced at Mo Yu mockingly. Mo Yu was so furious that his entire body trembled with rage as he roared explosively, "Good, very good. You will regret this." After saying that, he closed his eyes. What the eyes did not see, the heart did not grieve. Yang Kai could not be bothered to argue with Mo Yu and simply continued to manipulate space principles. At the same time, he turned to look at Mo Na Yi and smiled slightly. How cunning. He was not sure whether Mo Na Yi's speech earlier had been truly sincere or merely a show for the public. It might have been a mixture of both. Nonetheless, there was no denying that Mo Na Yi had driven both himself and Yang Kai into a corner. In any case, this was the crisis that Yang Kai would eventually have had to face. It became impossible for him to leave the moment Mo Na Yi secretly arranged for the Royal Lord and the innate territory lords to ambush him here. That being the case, he might as well slaughter all the Black Ink clansmen trapped inside the space within the projection first. After 2 years, his survival would be decided by the heavens in that decisive battle. There were less than 20 surviving innate territory lords trapped inside the space within the projection at this moment. If Yang Kai wanted to obliterate them, he could have killed them easily. Only Mo Na Yi posed some trouble for him. He needed to reduce Mo Na Yi's strength and let the latter's injuries slowly accumulate over time. Then, he would make his move when the time was right. The Tao strengths and space principles became more and more chaotic. Inside the projection, the random movements of the folded space increased in frequency. There were too many dangers lurking around with no warning signs. One by one, the territory lords who survived by luck eventually died over time. On the other hand, black blood continuously gushed out of Mo Na Yi's body as the number of injuries on his body gradually increased. Nevertheless, he was unwilling to wait for his death without doing anything, even though he was stuck in such a desperate situation. He constantly changed positions and summoned his strength to protect himself. Although he had valiantly offered to sacrifice himself for the greater good earlier, it was only natural for him to struggle to survive in the face of death. As time passed, the innate territory lords trapped in the space within the projection gradually lost their lives until not a single one remained. The void was filled with the remains of these territory lords after their tragic deaths. It was a bloody and miserable scene. The only survivors of the massacre were Yang Kai, who was not affected by the effects of this space, and Mo Na Yi, who was struggling to survive. Their situation could not be more different. Yang Kai was casually pushing his space principles to their limits. On the other hand, Mo Na Yi was in a terrible state. Their situations were in stark contrast to each other. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5721, Honored Master. Inside the space within the Universe Furnace's projection, Mo Na Yi had been driven to a desperate situation. There was no regularity to the constant movement and shifting of the folded space. Every movement was like an invisible and intangible millstone grinding away at everything in the void, which caused the severity of his injuries to increase over time. Nevertheless, Mo Na Yi simply gritted his teeth and persevered without complaint. Outside the projection, Royal Lord Mo Yu kept his eyes tightly shut. Nonetheless, the bursts of aura fluctuating around his figure revealed the unrest in his heart. He had done everything he could. If Mo Na Yi was destined to succumb here, then there was nothing he could do to prevent it. It was just that such a capable subordinate was difficult to find, so Mo Yu couldn't help feeling a slight twinge of regret. There was no saying how much time had passed when all of a sudden, Yang Kai stepped forward. His figure slipped through the layers of folded space like a ghost, and appeared behind Mo Na Yi without any warning and ruthlessly thrust his spear. Although Mo Na Yi had been struggling to stay alive, he had not forgotten to remain vigilant towards Yang Kai, hence, he immediately took precautions when he noticed the latter's movements and abruptly spun around at the same time that the Azure Dragon spear stabbed at him. Frantically drawing upon his black ink strength, he punched out with all his might. Thanks to the punch he threw with all his strength, Mo Na Yi managed to block the elusive blow coming from behind him. For a moment, space collapsed violently at the spot where the two forces met. Yang Kai pulled back slightly. On the other hand, Mo Na Yi lowered his hand. Black blood trickled from his knuckles. He had managed to block Yang Kai's attack but inevitably suffered some light injuries. Yang Kai snickered. He continued to connect with the Universe Furnace's true body, causing the space within the projection to shake. The vibrations and disorder became increasingly violent, but his expression remained relaxed, as though he was in no hurry. After repeated attacks, Mo Na's injuries continued to accumulate. Even though the pseudo-royal lord would like nothing more than to find Yang Kai's location, he was powerless in this treacherous environment. He could only maintain a passive defense in the face of Yang Kai's repeated assaults. The saying, "using a blunt knife to carve meat," was the best description for this situation. Inside the space within the projection, Mo Na was powerless even though he was stronger than Yang Kai. He could only wait for Yang Kai to shave away at his life, little by little. When he finally reached his limit, he was certain that Yang Kai would finish him off with a killing blow. Although Mo Na was well aware of this harsh reality, there was nothing he could do to change the situation. He could only stubbornly persist with his efforts while feeling humiliated and helpless in his heart. At a certain moment, Yang Kai suddenly frowned deeply. He had been pushing his space principles all this while, but the fluctuations in the space inadvertently slowed down due to his momentary pause. That vague feeling from before filled his heart once again. If he continued in this manner, there was a high likelihood that something beyond his control would occur here. Following the emergence of this feeling, Yang Kai clearly noticed that the connection between himself and the universe furnace's true body had strengthened considerably. What allowed Yang Kai to cause the space within the projection to oscillate endlessly was his comprehension of the cow punch secret technique. He was using this secret technique's first half to track the traces of the universe furnace back to their roots. The stronger the vibration in this space, the more precisely he could locate the universe furnace's true body. The reverse was also true. The closer the connection between him and the universe furnace's true body, the easier it became for him to make this space tremble. They seemed to be closely related to each other. As for whether something beyond his control would occur, Yang Kai did not know for certain. In any case, it should not be a bad thing for him to build a close connection with the universe furnace. He might even be able to use this connection to determine the hiding place of the universe furnace. In addition, Mo Na was seriously injured at the moment. Yang Kai only needed a final push before seizing the chance to annihilate Mo Na once and for all. Although he felt that his actions were slightly risky, he did not stop his movements. In fact, he urged his space principles more violently after a brief moment of hesitation. Sure enough, not only did his connection with the universe furnace grow stronger, but the trembling throughout the space also became considerably more violent as a result. Mo Na's expression changed slightly. He obviously felt the changes around him, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Facing the chaotic grinding of the folded space, he could only dodge as much as possible. All of a sudden, the folded space reacted violently in a manner that resembled boiling water. The layers of space completely shifted apart from each other. From the outside, the space inside the projection had suddenly become extremely distorted. It was as though broken pieces of the mirror which originally made up this scene had now been haphazardly scattered. In the eyes of the Black Ink clan masters outside the projection, Mo Na's figure inside the projection was no longer whole. His head was at one spot, his body was at another spot, his arms were in a third spot. The territory lords did not know whether they were looking at the effects of the disordered space or reality. It would be great if the effects of the warping caused this scene, but if they were looking at reality, then Mo Na was already dead. Fortunately, Mo Na was not the only person in this condition. When the Black Ink clansmen looked over at Yang Kai, they saw the same phenomenon affecting him. Yang Kai's figure was separated into dozens of pieces, scattered throughout the folded space. It was such a bizarre scene that the territory lords could not help exclaiming in astonishment. Inside the projection, Mo Na felt as though he had been struck by lightning and a mouthful of black blood spewed out of his mouth. He did not know how many additional wounds had appeared on his body in that instant, but it felt as though he was about to be ripped apart. The scene seen by the territory lords outside was just a visual deception. Nevertheless, the extremely distorted space principles were truly being imposed upon Mo Na inside the projection. If he did not resist with all his might, his body would be divided into countless pieces and scattered across the layers of folded space like what the territory lords were seeing at the moment. My destined end has come. Mo Na roared in his heart. Flooded with the immense fear of death, he abruptly regretted the righteous statement he made earlier. At the time, He believed that Yang Kai might not see things through to the end, otherwise, he would not be able to survive this ordeal either. Unfortunately, it would now seem that Yang Kai was determined to finish him off once and for all. Looking back on his life, Mo Na Yi realized that he had not achieved anything extraordinary. Be that as it may, his life had not been dull either. Especially the years he spent as rivals with Yang Kai. That period could be said to be rather exciting. While Mo Na Yi was being emotional in his moment of death, Yang Kai had a stunned expression on his face. He vaguely realized that the phenomenon which was beyond his control had already occurred. Using the mysterious effects of Cow Punch, he deliberately traced the universe furnace's aura back to its true location. At the same time, he caused disorder in the distorted and folded space within the projection to cause constant damage to Mo Na Yi so that he could create an opportunity to kill the latter. Everything was going well, and it would not take long before Mo Na Yi lost the strength to fight back. Moreover, Yang Kai clearly felt an extremely mysterious connection form between himself and the universe furnace's true body just now. It felt as though an invisible shackle had bound him directly to the universe furnace. He was overjoyed. With this connection, he could track the traces back to the location of the universe furnace itself. At present, the universe furnace's projection existed at more than a dozen locations, so no one knew where it would eventually appear. If Yang Kai could determine the location of the universe furnace in advance, then he might just be able to learn something. As for how to report his discovery to the human race, he did not have the time or energy to consider such matters. He did not even stop to wonder whether he could escape this place alive. When the connection was first established between him and the universe furnace though, an unexpected turn of events occurred before Yang Kai could trace its location. The connection seemed to wrap around him like an invisible rope, immediately followed by an invincible force that came from the other end. At this moment, Yang Kai felt the universe becoming chaotic and the void became ever-shifting. At the same time, the Black Ink clansmen outside the projection watched as the bodies of Mo Na Yi and Yang Kai were scattered around the void as though they had been cut into countless pieces while simultaneously, all the other projections became equally distorted and turbulent. Countless pairs of eyes watched the projection from different locations in shock. The constant oscillation and distortion of the space within the projection had attracted the attention of both the Black Ink clan and the human race. Nobody knew what was happening. Even Blood Crow, who entered the universe furnace once in the past, could not explain the phenomenon. Although the Supreme Headquarters was working hard to obtain information from various sources, they did not gain much from their efforts, therefore, they could only increase their surveillance. At the suppressing Black Ink fortress outside the Primordial Heaven's Source Grand Restriction, a group of 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters were staring at the projection in confusion. Yang Xiao asked Fu Guan again, "Senior, the universe furnace's projection looks rather dangerous. Are we really going to enter the universe furnace from here?" The space inside the projection was so distorted and disordered now that not many people would survive if they tried to enter it. Fu Guang frowned with a puzzled look on his face. "I've never heard of such a thing happening before the universe furnace appeared in the world." The Dragon Clan did not know much regarding the internal situation of the universe furnace, but they had some basic information. Whenever the universe furnace's projection emerged in the world in the past, everything had progressed smoothly and steadily. The projection would become increasingly solid, and then transform into the entrance of the universe furnace. There had never been a precedent where such strange phenomena occurred. Yang Xiao then glanced towards Zhao Yibai, "Junior brother, with your attainments in the Tao of Space, how much confidence do you have to come out safely if you were to enter the projection now?" Zhao Yibai considered the question seriously before he answered, "Around 60%. Even you only have 60% confidence." Yang Xiao was very shocked. He knew how great Zhao Yibai's attainments in the Tao of Space were. If Zhao Yibai only had a 60% chance of success, then everybody else who entered the universe furnace would probably die. Zhao Yibai looked ashamed and apologetic. "My aptitude is poor, which brings shame to the teachings of Honored Master." If Honored Master were here, his eyes suddenly widened in surprise. He stared at the originally empty, but extremely turbulent projection and blurted out, "Honored Master?" He could barely believe his eyes. A tremendously large figure had appeared and filled the entire space inside the projection at that moment. Moreover, the figure had the appearance of his honored master. The human race masters at the suppressing black ink fortress were incredibly shocked. After hearing the numerous exclamations of astonishment ringing throughout the crowd, Zhao Yibai confirmed that he was not hallucinating. His honored master had appeared within the projection. There were many of Yang Kai's family and friends stationed in the suppressing black ink army, so they looked extremely emotional at this moment. Fu Guang shouted, "What you see is not real. Be wary of deception." He could tell at a glance that the figure of Yang Kai, which suddenly appeared inside the projection, was not the real Yang Kai. It was some sort of illusory image, which explained why he was so large that he filled the entire space. Martial Peak, Chapter 5722, The Universe Furnace's Self-Defense Mechanism. What puzzled Fu Guang greatly was why Yang Kai's illusory phantom had appeared inside the space within the Universe Furnace's projection. What did that brat do to cause such a bizarre phenomenon? Likewise, the masters of both the Black Ink clan and the human race on the various Great Territory battlefields were absolutely perplexed by the situation. Yang Kai's illusory phantom had not just appeared in the Universe Furnace's projection outside the primordial heaven's source ground restriction, but in all the locations where the Universe Furnace's projection existed. The fact that his illusory phantom had appeared everywhere at the same time could be said to be a spectacular miracle. The Black Ink clan army and the human race army stood in formation outside the Universe Furnace's projection in Twin Poles territory, facing each other silently. Both the Black Ink clan and the human race had been recalling their forces during this period, so there had been no conflict between them for some time. The Universe Furnace was about to emerge in the world, and the situation was unclear. Therefore, both parties were being extremely cautious to prevent the other from obtaining an opportunity. Their current silent confrontation was in preparation for the upcoming fight over the control of the entrance to the Universe Furnace. The Universe Furnace was a tremendous blessing and opportunity. The human race was planning to fight for this opportunity, and the Black Ink clan could not allow them to obtain what they wanted. The present calm was simply a sign of the turbulent storm that was about to come. Although there were many Universe Furnace projections, it was foreseeable that a war would inevitably break out between both parties once these projections transformed into entrances. When the time came, the party who had control over more entrances would be able to send more masters inside. At this moment, two 8th Order Open Heaven Realm masters were standing side by side in Twin Poles territory, monitoring the movements of the territory lords on the opposite side when Yang Kai's illusory phantom suddenly appeared out of nowhere. While there were many other 8th Order Open Heaven Realm masters like themselves among their ranks, the number of territory lords among the Black Ink clan was not few either. One of them suddenly called out in alarm, "Junior brother Fang, it's the Tao Lord." The Tao Lord. The only ones who would address Yang Kai as Tao Lord were the disciples who originated from the Void Tao Temple. The person who spoke earlier was none other than the good friend whom Fang Tianci met in the Void Tao Temple all those years ago, Liu Jingshan. After leaving the Void Tao Temple, Liu Jingshan advanced directly to the 6th Order Open Heaven Realm outside of the star boundary. He later went through thousands of years of cultivation and eventually reached the 8th Order Open Heaven Realm. Even with his astounding achievements, he could not conceal his admiration and respect for the Tao Lord. In fact, almost all the cultivators from the Void Tao Temple held blind faith in their Tao Lord, Yang Kai. That sense of admiration in their hearts never faded or changed with the increase in their cultivation. Needless to say, the person standing beside Liu Jingshan was Fang Tianci, who nodded at those words, but, "It's just an illusory phantom." When the suppressing Black Ink army was established, Yang Xiao's squad was formally transferred to the suppressing Black Ink army. However, Fang Tianci, who was originally a member of Yang Xiao's squad, had applied to stay behind instead. Needless to say, there was no reason for Mi Jinglun, who was in charge of this matter, to make things difficult for him. Over the years, Fang Tianci remained active in Twin Poles territory and joined forces with Liu Jingshan to defeat their enemies. As many of the divine abilities he cultivated and his habits when dealing with enemies were somewhat similar to Yang Kai, he was often compared to the latter. He eventually gained the nickname Little Young Kai and became quite famous. The Black Ink clan had since repeatedly tried to target him out of fear that he might grow to Young Kai's level. Fortunately, he had always managed to escape and survive their attempts. After all, his attainments in the Tao of space were not low. It was difficult for the Black Ink clan to succeed, regardless of their attempts to target him. Fang Tianci frowned at the illusory phantom, feeling extremely puzzled. Why would his image appear inside the space within the universe furnace's projection? Thinking about it again, Yang Kai had always been unconstrained in his actions. He generally made unexpected moves that nobody else could even imagine, so it did not seem too strange for his illusory phantom to appear here. Fang Tianci smiled at the thought and did not think too deeply about the matter. Meanwhile, Thunder Shadow, who was in Azure Sun territory, had the same question as Fang Tianci. When this monster race master advanced to the Monster Emperor realm in the Myriad Monsters world, he had only been a Fifth-order Monster Emperor, which corresponded to the Fifth-order Open Heaven realm. Nevertheless, he attracted many congratulatory wishes from everyone at the time. Even the human race masters overseeing the Myriad Monsters world had not dared to take him lightly. That was because Thunder Shadow was not a mere monster emperor, but also a monster race great emperor who the Myriad Monsters worlds will recognize. Thunder Shadow had spent most of his time cultivating hard in the Myriad Monsters world over the recent years, and thanks to the blessing of the World Tree clone, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. He grew from the 5th Order to the 7th Order in just a short 2,000 years, and then 300 years ago, he became an 8th Order Monster Emperor, after which he came out of retreat. He had brazenly caused a bloodbath in Azure Sun territory by relying on his brutality and the innate might of the monster race. No less than 5 territory lords had died to his claws, which gave him an impressive reputation. Most of the monster race who came from the Myriad Monsters world had been taken in by human masters as mounts. By relying on the protection of these human masters, monster emperors could often improve their cultivation at great speed. At the same time, they could tacitly increase their cooperation with the human race masters to bring down their enemies more efficiently. However, there was no human race master who would even dare to think about taking Thunder Shadow as a mount. He was an individual who received the recognition of the Myriad Monsters world after all. As a great emperor who cultivated the primal art, Thunder Shadow naturally had great prospects for the future. Nearly 99% of the human race would not be able to match up to his strength. In that case, who would be qualified to subdue him? However, it was rumored that he had a very close relationship with a small great force known as Great Feather Pavilion. That was because he received great care from a Great Feather Pavilion disciple when he was young and weak. At this moment, a monster leopard with lightning all over its body was quietly watching the projection in Azure Sun territory. He did not take human form. It was not because he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. The monster race who cultivated the primal art mainly focused on polishing their monster cores as their foundation. The stronger their monster core, the stronger their strength as a monster race member, and the harder it became for them to assume human form. That was especially true for a monster race master like Thunder Shadow. It was practically impossible for him to assume human form at this point. There was a man and a woman next to him. They were none other than Qin Shui and her husband who came from Great Feather Pavilion. The couple were both in the 7th Order Open Heaven realm. Their cultivation was nothing special in Azure Sun territory, but their safety was guaranteed thanks to the protection of Thunder Shadow. In fact, they often worked with Thunder Shadow to eliminate many powerful foes over the years. That's the master of the star boundary, right? Qin Shui studied the illusory phantom for a moment and quickly recognized the identity of the figure. Beside her, Hu Qinghai nodded lightly. There's no doubt it's him. I saw his statue in the square when I visited High Heaven Palace in the star boundary in the past. He thought back to the scene he witnessed back then. Seeing thousands of High Heaven Palace disciples showing such great reverence to their palace master had fascinated him greatly. Every time he thought about that scene, he couldn't help thinking that that was how a real man should be. Unfortunately, both he and his wife were limited by their aptitude. The 7th Order Open Heaven realm was their inherent limit, so it was difficult for them to make any further progress. A hero indeed, Qin Shui sighed, It's only thanks to him that the human race managed to persevere until now. But, why did his figure appear here? Hu Qinghai shook his head to express his ignorance. On the other hand, Thunder Shadow growled softly, it's probably related to the universe furnace's projection. Qin Shui tilted her head to the side with a puzzled expression, but did not bother to think deeper into the matter. She simply asked in a worried voice, Thunder Shadow, are you really going to enter the universe furnace? He did not respond. Hu Qinghai tried to persuade Thunder Shadow otherwise. Thunder Shadow, you are part of monster race. Not to mention, you are a great emperor recognized by the myriad monsters world and cultivate the primal art. Even without entering the universe furnace, you have great prospects waiting for you in the future. Why must you put yourself in needless danger? I might not know the internal situation in the universe furnace, but I'm certain about something. There will be a horrific bloodbath when the time comes. Qin Shui nodded repeatedly in agreement and stared at Thunder Shadow expectantly, hoping that the latter would change his mind. The couple could not understand the reason why Thunder Shadow, who was born as part of monster race and cultivated the primal art, would want to compete in the bloody battle to enter the universe furnace. There was no reason for him to go after all. In response, Thunder Shadow simply said, I have my reasons for going, so please stop trying to persuade me otherwise. The entrance to the universe furnace will soon open. Please be extremely cautious when I'm not around and don't try to be brave or reckless. Qinghai, please take good care of your wife. Hu Qinghai sighed heavily, please don't worry about us. Everywhere outside the universe furnace's projections at each location, the masters of both the human race and the Black Ink clan were communicating with each other through voice transmission. Every one of them had their own intentions, but there were no exceptions about one thing: they were confused by the image that suddenly appeared. At the same time, Yang Kai's gaze wandered around the universe furnace's projection on the Black Ink battlefield as though he could see across space. He could see the astonished expressions of his wives and several disciples at the suppressing Black Ink fortress outside the primordial heaven's source grand restriction. He also saw Fang Tian Ci in Twin Poles territory. When their gazes met, they nodded lightly at each other. Everything was conveyed without any spoken words. Then, he saw Thunder Shadow, Qin Shui, and her husband standing side by side in Azure Sun territory. The tense atmosphere between the human race army and the Black Ink clan army, as they stood in formation outside the universe furnace's projections, did not escape his notice either. The barriers of space suddenly became meaningless at this moment. With the help of the mysterious connection between him and the universe furnace's true body, Yang Kai could see everything at all the locations where the universe furnace's projection had appeared. A realization suddenly welled up in his heart, and he burst out cursing. He was starting to understand the reason behind this phenomenon. It was the defense mechanism of the universe furnace itself. This supreme treasure had remained hidden beyond the bounds of this universe for all time. Nobody had ever figured out its exact location, much less seen its true body before. On the other hand, it was different for Yang Kai, who was proficient in the Tao of space. He had utilized the mysterious effects of his cow punch secret technique to trace the universe furnace's aura back to its roots to determine its true location. At this point, he was only one step away from success. Unfortunately, the universe furnace could not allow him to determine the location of its true body. That was why the connection that formed between him and the universe furnace had turned into an invisible rope, and an immense pulling force drew him in from the other end of the connection. The universe furnace was trying to pull him into itself so that he could not investigate its location any further. Whenever the universe furnace emerged in the world, it had always been customary to wait for the entrance to appear in order to enter it. Be that as it may, Yang Kai had been given permission to enter the universe furnace early, and it was not an invitation that he could refuse. It was also because of the connection between him and the universe furnace's true body that his image appeared in all the projections. The strange spaces scattered everywhere were originally projections of the universe furnace's true body. Now that Yang Kai had a close connection with the universe furnace and was being drawn into it, his figure was also being projected everywhere. A series of coincidences and opportunities had all led to this outcome. Yang Kai's original intention was to trace the location of the universe furnace's true body and simultaneously annihilate those surrounding him. He never expected his actions to cause such an unexpected turn of events, therefore, he couldn't help feeling slightly panicked. Would he be refined by the universe furnace if he entered it? It would be a huge tragedy if that were the case. Instead of increasing his cultivation, he would end up as part of the legendary innate open heaven pills. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5723, Purely by Accident. Yang Kai did not know how the open heaven pills that could help cultivators break through their innate shackles were formed, but the universe furnace was bound to contain various mysteries. Things would not end well for him if he was dragged into the universe furnace just like that. After realizing the precarious situation looming over him, he immediately began drawing upon his strength in desperation to break free from the connection between himself and the universe furnace. Nevertheless, his efforts were in vain. The invisible and intangible rope bound him tightly. The force that came from the other end of the rope was so overpowering that even a master at the peak of the 8th order open heaven realm like him was powerless to resist. Space principles flared, causing the void to become extremely distorted, but to his astonishment, he discovered that a vortex had appeared at the place where he was standing. Immediately after that, his figure was rapidly swallowed up and vanished out of sight. At the last moment, only one thought flashed through his mind. I haven't killed Mo Na yet. A wave of sorrow flooded his heart. He had persevered with so much effort, and if nothing unexpected had occurred, Mo Na would not have survived. Unfortunately, Mo Na was saved because his own future had become uncertain due to the universe furnace. A great sense of resentment and reluctance filled Yang Kai's heart. He would have been much more accepting if he had been dragged into the universe furnace after he succeeded in killing Mo Na. Forget it. Even though I failed to kill Mo Na, I did manage to eliminate many innate territory lords. I've done my best. Yang Kai felt much better after comforting himself with such words. The unexpected turn of events inside the universe furnace's projection occurred extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Yang Kai vanished without warning. The blood-stained and disheveled Mo Na was desperately shifting his body to avoid the attacks caused by the layers of folded space when the chaotic and oscillating space suddenly calmed down. Even the ubiquitous murderous intent around him disappeared in an instant. Mo Na was stunned for a moment, then, he turned to look in Yang Kai's direction only to find that the latter was gone. Be that as it may, he did not dare to relax his guard and remained cautious of his surroundings. Nothing abnormal occurred even though a long time had passed though, so he couldn't help sending out an inquiry via divine sense, "So Royal Lord, where is Yang Kai?" Mo Yu frowned and briefly explained the events that took place just now. The truth was that he had not understood the reason behind Yang Kai's disappearance either. He only saw a vortex inexplicably appearing where Yang Kai was standing. Immediately after that, Yang Kai was swallowed by the vortex and vanished without a trace. Mo Na was astonished. Yang Kai was swallowed by a vortex that appeared out of nowhere. Is it some sort of trickery? If that's the case, then he must be hiding somewhere in this space. It's just that nobody in the Black Ink clan can detect his whereabouts. But, what was the point of doing that? The space within the projection was sealed by a heaven-sealing earth-locking grand array, so Yang Kai couldn't leave this place and his whereabouts would be revealed once the universe furnace's illusory phantom completely solidified. Besides, Yang Kai clearly looked determined to kill him and was on the verge of success. So, there's no reason for Yang Kai to create further disturbances at a time like this. Inside this weird space within the projection, there was nothing Mo Na could do to defend against Yang Kai's attacks. As long as Yang Kai persisted for a little longer, Mo Na would have died without a doubt. By that logic, it made more sense that something happened which caused Yang Kai to be swallowed by that strange vortex rather than him voluntarily giving up on all his accumulated efforts. Mo Na racked his brains but could not fathom the reason behind Yang Kai's actions. The Black Ink clan's understanding of the universe furnace was far too shallow, so much so that he couldn't even be certain whether Yang Kai was still hiding inside the projection at this moment. After pondering in silence for some time, he finally spoke once more. "Sir, the universe furnace is about to truly emerge. The real war between the human race and the Black Ink clan is imminent. You need to return so that you can protect the no-return pass and coordinate the movements of the Black Ink clan. Mo Yu nodded lightly. What about you? Mo Na Yi gave a light smile. Please don't worry. If Yang Kai wanted to kill me, he would not have given up just now. Since he stopped halfway, he must have other plans. This subordinate will act accordingly, but just to be on the safe side, we should maintain the grand array around the perimeter lest he try to escape. It will also give this subordinate more capital to negotiate with him if he reappears. Mo Yu had no objections to Mo Na Yi's suggestions, so he instructed the territory lords in charge of maintaining the grand array to remain behind and heed Mo Na Yi's orders. Then, he studied the projection intently for a moment before he transformed into a streak of black light that sped off in the direction of the no-return pass. The no-return pass was the Black Ink clan's largest base, and all the high-rank Black Ink nests were currently sheltered there. Although Royal Lord Mo Yu had personally come to deal with Yang Kai during this incident, he could not afford to stay away for too long lest the human race masters took advantage of his absence. Watching the Royal Lord disappearing into the distance, Mo Na Yi sat down cross-legged and glanced around him. Brother Yang, the Royal Lord has left. Can you show yourself so that we can have a good talk? Now that things have come to this, there's no point in hiding anymore, right? He had the feeling that Yang Kai was no longer here, but he could not be certain. Nevertheless, he could not understand the situation. Where could Yang Kai have gone if he wasn't here? What was the vortex that swallowed him? In any case, Mo Na Yi had to consider all the possible scenarios. Assuming that Yang Kai was hiding somewhere, then he had to try and make contact. Naturally, he couldn't receive a response. Meanwhile, Yang Kai's illusory phantom that filled the entire void at each projection appeared for no more than 2 or 3 breaths of time before vanishing without warning, and the abnormal situation was swiftly reported to the Supreme Headquarters. Mi Jing Lun, Xiong Shan, and Blood Crow gathered together to discuss the situation in hopes of figuring out what happened. After ruling out the various possibilities, only one answer remained before them. Yang Kai had made contact with the Universe Furnace's true body. All the projections originated from the Universe Furnace's true body, which meant that the Universe Furnace's true body was the source of everything. Seeing as Yang Kai's illusory phantom had appeared at each projection at the same time, then the phenomenon was definitely related to the Universe Furnace's true body. If Thunder Shadow Great Emperor in Azure Sun Territory could figure this out, then it was only natural for Mi Jing Lun and the others to reach the same conclusion. For a time, they looked exuberant. Throughout history, nobody had ever learned the location of the Universe Furnace's true body or even seen it before. At present, it had not been long since the Universe Furnace's projection appeared. Both the human race and the Black Ink clan were waiting for the projections to solidify and transform into entrances, yet Yang Kai seemed to have gotten into contact with the Universe Furnace already. That was exciting news. If that were truly the case, then they would have a massive advantage. As irreverent as Blood Crow was, he couldn't help feeling a sense of admiration for Yang Kai. Having been a member of Dawn who fought beside Yang Kai for many years, he had quite a good understanding of Yang Kai's abilities. Nevertheless, he had never held much respect for Yang Kai due to the sense of arrogance in his heart and the long-standing grievances between them. At most, he only felt a subtle sense of competitiveness towards him. They were both open heaven realm masters, after all, so there was no reason he could not do what Yang Kai could. Be that as it may, he was completely convinced at this moment. The Universe Furnace was the most profound and mysterious treasure in existence, yet Yang Kai had managed to make contact with its true body. That was something he could never achieve. He suddenly wondered curiously, was Yang Kai trying to use that opportunity to convey a message to us? For example, informing us about the whereabouts of the Universe Furnace's true body? Mi Jing Lun and Xiong Shan glanced at each other. Both of them were feeling rather excited all of a sudden. If that were truly the case, then the information was extremely important. If they could discover the location of the Universe Furnace's true body, then they could enter the Universe Furnace and obtain the opportunity in advance. Once the entrances were formed, they could then ambush the Black Ink clan from within the Universe Furnace world and catch the Black Ink clan unprepared. After carefully comparing the information he received from various locations though, Jing Lun shook his head and said, "I don't think he was trying to convey any information to us. Yang Kai's figure only appeared for a very short time, and judging from the reports gathered from various parties, he seemed to have been caught off guard. It is written here that Yang Kai looked astonished when he first appeared. This fact undoubtedly indicates that he had not expected this phenomenon." Xiong Shan abruptly added, "According to the information that we received earlier, he should have been hunting down the territory lords who escaped from the primordial heavens source grand restriction when all of this happened. Could the universe furnace's true body be located in the black ink battlefield?" Jing Lun stroked his beard, nodding thoughtfully, "It's not impossible. Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do even if we know that the universe furnace's true body is located on the black ink battlefield. The entrances will manifest within a year or so it's too late to dispatch our forces to the black ink battlefield. Besides, how will we enter the black ink battlefield without Yang Kai's protection? We can't just boldly swagger through the no-return pass like he can." Xiong Shan lamented, "In that case, we can only wait for the entrances to open. It's our only option." Jing Lun sighed slightly. "Fortunately, the Black Ink clan does not have much information on the universe furnace. We still have a slight advantage over them in that regard. Among other things, the Black Ink clan most likely did not know that there was a sealed world inside the universe furnace. Moreover, the projections would transform into entrances that led into the universe furnace once they solidified completely. They might have Black Ink disciples providing them with some rumors and hearsay, but the cultivation of those Black Ink disciples was not high, so such secret information would not be leaked easily. At the moment, the Black Ink clan had only moved their armies to the various locations to confront the human race armies outside the projections. They were simply taking countermeasures against the large-scale movements of the human race, not planning for an area control battle. Be that as it may, this secret could only be hidden for a short time as, once the projections solidified and the entrances appeared, the Black Ink clan would immediately understand. The advantage that the human race held in terms of intelligence would only allow them to make various arrangements in advance. Hopefully, those arrangements would give them a slight advantage when competing for the opportunity inside the universe furnace. Although the guesses of Jing Lun and the others at the Supreme Headquarters were not entirely accurate, they had gotten at least 2 points correct. The first was that Yang Kai had truly gotten in contact with the universe furnace's true body, and the second was that this incident had indeed happened purely by accident. Yang Kai had not been prepared in advance. What they did not know was that the accident had caused Yang Kai to be dragged into the universe furnace. If they knew the truth, they would have been much more amazed by the situation. At this moment, Yang Kai was overflowing with worry. When he was dragged into the universe furnace, aside from the twinge of regret he felt about failing to kill Mo Nae, he had also been concerned about his own fate. The universe furnace contained innate open heaven pills, but as for how these open heaven pills were produced, nobody knew the truth. Regardless of their method of production, the universe furnace was ultimately an alchemy furnace though. Things might not end well for him if he were dragged into the universe furnace. His greatest fear was being refined by the universe furnace. If that were to happen, he would definitely die with many regrets. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5724, Inside the Universe Furnace. After a period of extreme anxiety, Yang Kai discovered that he was showing no signs of being refined. Still, the environment around him seemed to be rather strange. He could not quite describe his surroundings at the moment. It felt as though he had slipped into the void, with bits of fluorescent lights scattered around like stars twinkling in the sky. Distance had become an extremely vague concept in this place, causing the flickering fluorescent lights to seem both extremely far away yet simultaneously close at hand. More importantly, Yang Kai could keenly feel that he was either being immobilized by something which prevented him from moving a single muscle, or he was wrapped in a mysterious force that shackled him in place. He couldn't help feeling rather depressed by his circumstances. Am I inside the universe furnace? He couldn't help sinking deep into thought. The various indications proved that he had indeed been dragged into the universe furnace, so there was no doubt about that. Nevertheless, It seemed rather bizarre. It was hard to believe that there was a vast world inside the universe furnace. That was something that never crossed his mind before. In his imagination, the universe furnace was nothing more than an alchemy furnace which produced the mysterious innate open heaven pills. Although the projection of the alchemy furnace he saw previously was larger than he expected, he had not been overly surprised since the size difference was within the limits of his imagination. On the other hand, the fact that the universe furnace contained an independent world was truly astonishing. Upon further consideration, it did not seem out of the ordinary for the universe furnace to contain a sealed world. The universe furnace was the most mysterious supreme treasure in existence. Furthermore, it was capable of producing innate open heaven pills which could overcome the limitations of the established heavenly way. Collecting his thoughts, Yang Kai decided not to spend too much time deliberating over such trivial matters. His biggest concern at the moment was how he could protect himself. He was dragged into the universe furnace because his actions had touched upon the essence of this supreme treasure. Although there were no signs to indicate that he was being refined at the moment, it was necessary to have countermeasures in place. First, I need to figure out a way to break free from these bindings. Yang Kai immediately began to draw upon his power to escape this place. However, he discovered that he couldn't even move a single finger no matter how hard he struggled. The mysterious force holding him in place did not give off a sense of strength, but it was extremely resilient. The more power he exerted against the force, the stronger the force became in response. Thus, he was kept completely immobilized. Not feeling discouraged, Yang Kai began to push his space principles and attempted to leave this place via instantaneous movement. Unexpectedly, the omnipotent Tao of space was completely ineffective here. The space around him seemed to have frozen solid, creating an unbreakable prison. Urging time principles next, Yang Kai tried to wither whatever it was holding him in place, but it proved futile. He then tried urging spear principles, but his efforts remained ineffective. There was no saying how much time had passed by the time he finished cycling through all the Tao strengths of the grand Taos he mastered so far, but none of them helped with his situation whatsoever. The same held true even when he simultaneously activated time principles and space principles and then merged them together to form the mysterious space-time strength. His heart was flooded with a sense of frustration. At this point, he was certain about one thing: he could not move a single muscle. Like a prisoner, he was trapped in this inexplicable cage with no means of escape. What a disaster! Yang Kai never imagined that he would suffer such treatment just because he touched upon the essence of the universe furnace. Moreover, he not only failed to discover the hiding spot of the universe furnace's true body, but he also failed to take the opportunity to finish off Mo Na Yi. There were no signs that the universe furnace was attempting to refine him, so judging by the situation, he had no reason to worry about his safety at the moment. The universe furnace might not necessarily even be for refining foreign objects. Naturally, just to be on the safe side, it was better if he remained vigilant of any unexpected occurrences. I might be safe for now, but how am I supposed to leave this place? Composing himself, Yang Kai put away the slight sense of anxiety brewing in his heart and carefully began to perceive his surroundings. If he wanted to leave this place, then he had to break free of the force restraining him. Only by comprehending this force could he take the necessary measures to break free from his shackles. When his divine sense spread out like a tidal wave, Yang Kai instantly noticed something that was out of the ordinary. There was a large amount of Tao essence contained within the universe furnace. The abundance of the invisible and intangible Tao essence that interweaved and accumulated inside the universe furnace was almost impossible to imagine. There were no exceptions anywhere his mind extended. He couldn't help feeling overwhelmed by the discovery. For some reason, it felt as though he had accidentally fallen into a treasure trove. The most intuitive manifestation of a cultivator's grand Tao was the amount of Tao essence they possessed. Needless to say, that was not something that could be quantified precisely, as it was nothing more than a vague concept. Take Yang Kai for example. His highest attainments were in the grand Tao of space, so the space Tao essence was the most abundant in his small universe. That was how there were Tao temple disciples who could inherit his blessings and cultivate the Tao of space. The Tao of time came next, however, Thanks to the improvement of the dragon vein in his body, Yang Kai's Tao of time was now equal in level to the Tao of space. Naturally, the spear Tao came third. There were many other grand Taos as well. Apart from the alchemic Tao and the Tao of artifact refining that he spent time and effort cultivating, the rest were the results of his harvest from the Great Sea celestial phenomenon. When he was being hunted by the royal lord, Yang Kai had been forced to flee for over a decade. In the end, he dove into the Great Sea celestial phenomenon and encountered an inconceivable harvest. He only managed to gain so much in the Great Sea celestial phenomenon because of the grand Tao rivers that were found inside. After all, flowing in those rivers were countless Tao essences that had been refined and absorbed by him. Yang Kai never expected to discover so many Tao essences inside the universe furnace. Not to mention, they were many times richer than the Tao essences found in the Great Sea celestial phenomenon. Is this the carrot after the stick treatment? The universe furnace had dragged him here and ruined his plans to kill Mo Na Yi, but it turned out that such benefits were waiting for him. It truly was as the saying went, good fortune came after a catastrophe. In any case, there was indeed an amazing opportunity in front of him. Yang Kai immediately calmed down and opened his small universe to absorb and refine the Tao essence, but a short while later, he frowned deeply. Opening his small universe once more, he sensed something flowing out of his small universe. The something that he sensed flowing out of his small universe was none other than the Tao essence that he had just absorbed. After a quick try, Yang Kai discovered that the Tao essence permeating the entire universe furnace could not be refined or absorbed whatsoever. This discovery immediately made his wonderful mood sink to the bottom of the abyss. Nevertheless, he refused to accept this reality and tried to absorb the Tao essence into his small universe once more. Following several failed attempts, he finally confirmed that the Tao essence inside the universe furnace could not be refined. He also vaguely grasped the reason that prevented him from doing so. If it was said that the Tao essence flowing in the grand Tao rivers of the Great Sea celestial phenomenon he encountered back then could be classified as an orderly form of Tao essence, the Tao essence found here could be classified as disordered and chaotic. It was the most primitive form of Tao essence. Forcibly refining this kind of Tao essence would not be beneficial for him. The most superficial explanation was the difference between uncooked rice and cooked rice. The Tao essence here was uncooked. On the other hand, the Tao essence flowing in the grand Tao rivers of the Great Sea celestial phenomenon was cooked. Yang Kai would only need to consume and digest the cooked rice to transform it into the foundation of his strength. Conversely, he could not do that with pure uncooked rice. If he forcibly tried to consume the uncooked rice, he might even cause harm to his body. The realization left him slightly dumbfounded. In his perception, the amount of Tao essence accumulated inside the universe furnace was rich beyond comprehension. Be that as it may, he could not benefit from the Tao essence in front of him. There was nothing more tortuous in this world than staring at something he wanted but could not have. Why is the Tao essence inside the universe furnace so strange? Yang Kai frowned pensively. Thinking about it carefully, the answer became obvious. The sealed world inside the universe furnace was probably in its most primitive form. That would explain the chaos and disorder of the Tao essence in this place. The world here was not like the world outside, which had undergone countless years of evolution and development. It was only natural for the Tao essence in this place to remain in its most primitive state. Maybe, this is the reason why the open heaven pills produced by the universe furnace can help cultivators break through their limitations. It was like 99% of the grand Tao had been integrated into the universe, leaving out the final 1%. As a result, the open heaven realm method that the 10 martial ancestors gained enlightenment about based on the formation of the universe itself was naturally incomplete. The final missing piece could only be found in a place that preserved the most primitive environment from before the formation of the universe furnace. Perfection could only be obtained when both were combined. Following that thought, Yang Kai suddenly had a realization. The universe furnace itself might be the human race's biggest shackle. At this moment, the fluorescent lights around him suddenly began to flicker wildly. His attention was immediately drawn towards them, and he quietly observed his surroundings. The fluorescent lights were innumerable, and young Kai did not know what these wisps were, but they looked like countless fireflies at first glance. Moreover, he couldn't even judge how far these fluorescent lights were from him under the unique environment inside the universe furnace. When the countless lights started flickering, the extremely abundant but disordered and chaotic Tao essence began to be absorbed by them. Young Kai was stunned by the sight. He had tried refining the irregular and chaotic Tao essence earlier, but it proved impossible for him. In comparison, these fluorescent lights were easily absorbing the Tao essence here. What are these lights? Over time, the Tao essence absorbed by the fluorescent lights increased steadily. Then, 9 distinct fluorescent lights among the sea of fluorescent lights gradually began to grow larger and glow brighter than the rest. The amount of Tao essence they absorbed also increased sharply in response. Young Kai's attention was attracted by these 9 distinct fluorescent lights. During the brief interval between flashes, he vaguely noticed that these fluorescent lights seemed to display the outlines of spirit pills. Innate open heaven pills. The realization came to him abruptly. These twinkling fluorescent lights were the innate open heaven pills produced by the universe furnace. They were the legendary spirit pills that could allow a cultivator to break free of their innate limitations just by consuming one. Are there 9 such pills? It made sense. After all, 9 was the limit. For the universe furnace to produce 9 of these heaven-defying spirit pills was an amazing feat in itself. It was not a small number, to say the least. If all of them could be obtained by the human race, they could immediately produce 9 new ninth-order open heaven realm masters. That would definitely be extremely beneficial to the upcoming war with the Black Ink clan. But if those 9 fluorescent lights that glowed brighter than the rest were the legendary innate open heaven pills, then what were these countless bits of fluorescent light around them? They were also absorbing the disordered and chaotic Tao essence inside the universe furnace, so apart from the amount of Tao essence being absorbed and the intensity of their brightness, there was not much difference between them and the 9 brightest lights. Young Kai couldn't help recalling the innate open heaven pills that he obtained from the blood monster cave heaven and the doubts he harbored in the past. Could it be that the innate open heaven pills inside the universe furnace had different grades? Marshall Peak, Chapter 5725, Unattainable Opportunities. Inside the universe furnace, young Kai couldn't help feeling very confused. Are there different grades to the open heaven pills in the universe furnace? I've never heard anything like that before. At the same time, many 8th-order open heaven realm masters were gathered at the supreme headquarters. These were the candidates chosen from among the human race to enter the universe furnace and compete for opportunities. Many were veteran 8th-order open heaven realm masters, but some were rising stars. Nonetheless, without exception, all of them were open heaven realm masters whose martial Tao ended at the 8th order open heaven realm. Having advanced directly to the 6th order, the 8th order was their limit. If they wanted to increase their cultivation any further, then their only option was to compete for the opportunity inside the universe furnace. Once the entrances to the universe furnace took form, a great war was bound to break out between the human race and the Black Ink clan. At that time, their duty was to charge into the universe furnace as quickly as possible to search for opportunities and advance to the 9th order. As for the rest, there was no need for them to worry. The other human race masters would be in charge of blocking the Black Ink clan's attempts at interference. At this moment, these 8th order masters were sitting on the ground and studying hard like students in a lecture hall. Meanwhile, standing in front of them was a cultivator wrapped in a layer of blood chi. His aura was very showy, but his cultivation was hard to determine. It was Blood Crow. Blood Crow had personally experienced the emergence of the universe furnace last time. Having entered the universe furnace once before, his understanding of it was unmatched by anybody else. Therefore, Mi Jing Lun had specially asked him to teach these 8th order open heaven realm masters about the internal situation of the universe furnace so that they could prepare themselves in advance. Blood Crow was no great scholar or teacher, so he simply said what came to mind. Still, the 8th order open heaven realm masters were careful to record everything he said. After all, Nobody knew whether the things he told them would become the key that would allow them to preserve their lives or grab hold of the opportunity at a critical moment. Let's talk about the open heaven pills produced by the universe furnace. Most people only know that these open heaven pills can help cultivators overcome their innate limitations, but what you should know first is that even the open heaven pills inside the universe furnace have different grades. The 8th order open heaven realm masters sitting below immediately fell into an uproar. In regards to this matter, not only had nobody ever told them, but they had never even heard rumors about it. To the side, Mi Jinglun and Xiong Shan exchanged a glance and smiled wryly. They, too, had been very shocked when they first heard this bit of information from Bloodcrow. It turned out that the open heaven pills inside the universe furnace had different grade. Bloodcrow did not play any games and continued, I don't know how the 9th order open heaven realm masters of the cave heavens and paradises categorize them. After all, I don't come from any of the cave heavens or paradises. I can only divide the open heaven pills in the universe furnace into 2 types. The first type is the supreme grade open heaven pills, which everybody knows as the innate open heaven pills that can help 8th order open heaven realm masters like yourselves advance to the 9th order. Unfortunately, the other type does not have such a potent effect, so we can think of them as ordinary grade open heaven pills. Classifying these innate open heaven pills into supreme grade and ordinary grade was a very rough method of categorization. One of the 8th order open heaven realm masters was confused. I understand the situation with the supreme grade open heaven pills, but junior brother Bloodcrow, why does the universe furnace produce these ordinary grade open heaven pills? What are their uses? Bloodcrow replied, I don't know why the universe furnace produces these ordinary grade open heaven pills either, but they are by no means useless. While their medicinal efficacies are not as profound as the supreme grade open heaven pills, they are enough to help a cultivator overcome their bottlenecks. The ability to overcome one's bottleneck, but not one's limitations. Having heard that, the 8th order open heaven realm masters seemed to gain a vague understanding of the situation. The 8th order open heaven realm master who spoke earlier said, so, that's how it is. By that logic, the ordinary grade open heaven pills are rare treasures too. A cultivator's martial Tao was not always smooth sailing. Take Lan Yu Ruo for example. She had advanced directly to the 6th order open heaven realm, so her limit should have been the 8th order. Nevertheless, it had taken her some 250 years of cultivating in retreat to finally advance to the 7th order open heaven realm during her brief period in Voidland. The same was true for Fengying of Dawn Squad. It had taken her more than 200 years to advance from the 7th order open heaven realm to the 8th order. Several hundred years was not a long time for open heaven realm masters who could live for tens of thousands of years. However, they would not need to waste all that precious time if they could obtain one of these ordinary grade open heaven pills. There were many high-rank open heaven realm masters, but many of them were stuck at a bottleneck in their cultivation and had trouble progressing forward. They were not at the point where they needed the supreme grade open heaven pills. Be that as it may, they would easily advance to the next order if they had the support of some ordinary grade open heaven pills. 1 or 2 open heaven realm masters might not make a difference, but the strength of the human race would surely grow sharply when their numbers increase. It was not as though the human race did not have any kind of spirit pills that could help a cultivator overcome their bottlenecks, but the efficacies of such spirit pills were not that great. In comparison, the ordinary grade open heaven pills were different. They were the best spirit pills to help a cultivator overcome their bottlenecks. In Xiong Shan's case, he had originally planned to enter the universe furnace for the supreme grade open heaven pills, but it would now seem that he might not necessarily need to obtain one. The ordinary grade open heaven pills might be enough to help him overcome his current bottleneck. Junior brother Bloodcrow, how many supreme grade open heaven pills are there? And, how many ordinary grade? Another 8th order open heaven realm master raised the question he really wanted to know. Bloodcrow glanced at the 8th order open heaven realm master and replied, I'm not certain how many supreme grade open heaven pills there are. The last time I entered the universe furnace, I was only in the 7th order open heaven realm and I didn't dare to carelessly move around, much less dare to compete with the masters for that peak opportunity. Although I don't know the exact numbers, I'm certain that there weren't many such heaven-defying spirit pills. After a brief pause, he continued his explanation. As for the ordinary grade open heaven pills, there are many of those. Even I managed to obtain a few. It was thanks to consuming those ordinary grade open heaven pills that I smoothly advanced to the 8th order back then. As the topic deepened, the atmosphere in the Grand Hall became more and more heated. The 8th order open heaven masters consecutively asked the questions they were curious about, and Blood Crow did his best to answer. Whenever he encountered a question he could not answer, he did not make any unfounded speculations to prevent misleading others. Inside the universe furnace, Yang Kai was naturally unaware that Blood Crow had differentiated the open heaven pills into supreme grade and ordinary grade. Nevertheless, he quickly came to an unbelievable conclusion under such close observation. The open heaven pills from the universe furnace could be separated into 2 distinct grades. The 9 brightest lights were clearly the open heaven pills that he had always heard about. Now that he was so close to them, he couldn't help feeling tempted to grab them. The universe furnace's projection had appeared in all the various great territory battlefields, which affected numerous masters from the human race and the Black Ink clan. All of them were waiting to obtain the opportunity within the universe furnace. If Yang Kai could snatch these 9 open heaven pills in advance, then the human race would be the greatest winners no matter what arrangements the Black Ink clan made. They could use these 9 open heaven pills to produce 9 ninth order open heaven realm masters. That would be enough to form a crushing advantage against the Black Ink clan. Unfortunately, he could neither move a muscle nor freely exert his strength at this moment. The greatest opportunity in the 3000 worlds was literally right in front of him, but he was powerless to seize it. How annoying, hateful. He couldn't help cursing at the universe furnace. It was bad enough that he was dragged into this place, but he was also completely immobilized and then shown such a wondrous opportunity, yet he was unable to seize it. What is this torture? At this moment, Yang Kai had long forgotten his earlier worries of being refined by the universe furnace. If the universe furnace wanted to refine him, the process would have taken place by now. Seeing as there were no movements in that regard, he was most probably safe for the time being. Now that he was safe, it was only natural for him to become greedy when such an opportunity was right in front of him. Yang Kai stubbornly began to struggle once more, but it was all to no avail. Thus, he became even more annoyed and depressed. As the 9 lights devoured the chaotic and primitive Tao essence at an increasingly fierce rate, they began to glow brighter and brighter as a result. A rough estimate of the time indicated that there were only a few more months before the universe furnace emerged in the world. Yang Kai did not know the exact location where this supreme treasure would appear, but he could practically imagine the scene at the time. The masters of both sides had gathered outside the universe furnace's projections. When the universe furnace opened under the illumination of the dense and multicolored lights, the 9 open heaven pills and their companions would fly out of the universe furnace. Subsequently, the masters of both the human race and the Black Ink clan would plunge into a frenzied battle. He would be freed of his shackles at that time and might even fly out of the universe furnace with the open heaven pills. Although he could easily obtain several of them with his abilities, this method was rather risky. After all 9 of the best open heaven pills needed to be obtained by the human race. I need to figure out a way so that it will be easier for me to seize the opportunity once I am free. Since the universe furnace dragged me here and allowed me to witness the creation of these open heaven pills, then I ought to benefit from this opportunity. After pondering for some time, Yang Kai came up with an idea. He immediately attempted to use his spiritual energy to place an imprint on these open heaven pills. If he succeeded, then he would be able to obtain them with a simple flash of his thought. In the next moment, he gave a deep groan and his complexion went pale from his efforts. At this moment, the 9 open heaven pills were indiscriminately devouring the surrounding Tao essence. When his divine sense penetrated the open heaven pills, his divine sense was refined and absorbed in an instant. His divine sense was damaged as a consequence, but Yang Kai was not very concerned about this injury. After all, his soul would be torn apart every time he unleashed a soul-rending thorn. This amount of injury was nothing to him. Besides, the soul-warming lotus would quickly repair his damaged divine sense. Spiritual energy is ineffective, But what about world force? Yang Kai made another attempt, only for the open heaven pills to refine and absorb his world force perfectly. It would seem that the open heaven pills were not particular about what kind of energy approached them, greedily refining and absorbing anything they could. Unfortunately, that was not good news for Yang Kai. As things stood, how was he supposed to leave his mark on the 9 spirit pills so that he could easily make his move when the time came? He activated the various Tao strengths he mastered in hopes that he could leave some kind of mark on the open heaven pills, but his efforts remained futile. Even the mysterious spacetime strength was ineffective. These innate open heaven pills were like starving wolves, swallowing anything and everything that was placed before them. Yang Kai couldn't help frowning with a troubled expression. Spiritual energy, world force, and even Tao strengths have proven to be ineffective. What else is there that I can try? All of a sudden, he seemed to recall something and silently activated the great sun and moon marks. His own strength had been ineffective against the open heaven pills. In that case, the only power that did not belong to him was the 2 marks that he received from Big Brother Huang and Big Sister Lan. If that was also ineffective, then he had no other methods to try. He normally borrowed the power of the 2 marks to condense purifying light, however, he was now attempting to leave a mark on the 9 open heaven pills with their power instead. It was not a difficult feat to perform. The mysterious power of the great sun and great moon September out from the backs of his hands. Under his careful control, they slowly extended towards one of the open heaven pills. It did not take long before the power of the great sun and great moon was influenced by the pull of the open heaven pills and swiftly absorbed into it. Yang Kai could clearly feel the power of the great sun and the great moon gradually being shaved away and becoming weaker. Be that as it may, he was overjoyed in the next moment. That was because a slight trace remained of the power of the great sun and the great moon. They had not completely disappeared. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5726, Universe Furnace Manifests. The great sun and moon marks were created from the burning lights and serene glimmers sources, so naturally, the power that came from these 2 marks contained the aura of their sources. It was a power that was derived directly from the primordial light. Perhaps that was the reason why the innate open heaven pills could not devour it completely. Either way, the experiment was a success. Yang Kai was thrilled. He quickly added the great sun and great moon's auras to the 8 remaining lights. However, after going to great lengths to do so, a thought dawned on Yang Kai. There's no point in doing this. Initially, he wanted to leave something that he could control inside the 9 best quality open heaven pills. That way, it would be easier for him to seize them when the universe furnace truly emerged. However, the power from the great sun and moon marks did not belong to him. They had been given to him by Big Brother Huang and Big Sister Lan. Although he could wield the 2 marks to create purifying light, he could not use them to control the 9 open heaven pills. All of Yang Kai's delight disappeared in a flash as soon as he remembered this. He thought that after spending half a day on his attempts, he was finally rewarded with success, but in the end, it had all been for nothing. No one would be pleased about that. Thus, after being dragged into this place by the universe furnace, Yang Kai did not receive any significant benefit, other than personally witnessing the mysterious inner workings of the universe furnace and the creation of the innate open heaven pills. Furthermore, Mo-Na got the chance to escape. Yang Kai was feeling rather disgruntled. However, he could not do anything about it. A strange power was restraining him right now, and he could not do anything about it. As time passed, Yang Kai calmed himself down and continued watching as the open heaven pills devoured the Tao essence all around them and took on a physical form. Eventually, the 9 lights grew brighter until they became 9 great suns that hovered all around Yang Kai. When compared to the 9 great suns, the countless dots of glimmering light paled by far, like the difference between the bright moon and dim stars in the night sky. However, Yang Kai had a feeling that the glimmering lights, which were also open heaven pills, had to be crucial in some way. In any case, how could something produced by the universe furnace turn out to be ordinary? The open heaven pills he got from the blood monster cave heaven in the past were most likely these lower quality ones, but their medicinal efficacies had probably waned due to the passage of time and the failure to store them properly. Yang Kai did not know how long it had been, but he was focused on observing the production of the open heaven pills when he felt a kind of strong and vigorous energy surge towards him while undergoing some kind of unknown transformation. His expression changed, but as he could not move, he could not dodge the sudden burst of energy, so he had to endure it instead. The strange energy was incredibly powerful, and when confronted with it, even Yang Kai, who was at the peak of the 8th order open heaven realm, felt minuscule in comparison. He heard his bones being dislocated and his 5 viscera and 6 organs felt as if they were about to explode from the pressure. Yang Kai had no idea what was happening. Apart from being restrained, nothing else had happened to him ever since he entered the universe furnace, until now. It finally felt as if his life was at risk. In that life and death moment, there was only one thought in Yang Kai's mind: is the universe furnace really going to refine me? Fortunately, the intense energy fluctuation disappeared as quickly as it appeared. The pressure had only lasted for a moment before it was gone. Yang Kai could sense that the space he was in, the place with countless glimmering lights, was now endlessly stretching out. At the same time, the glimmering lights turned into streaks and shot out in all directions. A thought popped into Yang Kai's mind almost instinctively. The universe furnace has fully manifested. The strange event earlier was clearly a sign that the universe furnace was emerging. After counting the days in his head, Yang Kai realized that the timing added up as well. Then, Yang Kai noticed that the power that had been restraining him all this while had disappeared. He instantly manipulated space principles to lock up the area around him as he reached out to grab the blazing streaks of light, but they moved away so quickly that Yang Kai came up empty-handed, even though he had been determined to catch hold of them. Only a few of the weak, glimmering lights were caught inside his trapped space. The weak, glimmering lights were trembling hard against the constraints of the space principles. It was as if the lights had a mind of their own and wanted to escape from Yang Kai's grasp, but he was not going to let that happen. He stuffed the lights into his small universe, though he did not have the time to study them now. Instead, he dashed after one of the dazzling streams of light he targeted earlier. Space principles flickered, and in a flash, Yang Kai reappeared millions of kilometers away. However, just a moment later, Yang Kai came to a stop with a helpless expression on his face. The stream of light had already gone too far away. It flew a lot quicker than him even though he used instantaneous movement. After recalling the earlier scene, Yang Kai immediately understood what was happening. It was not really that the dazzling light was moving faster than he was, but rather that this space was, itself, rapidly expanding. I had such a great opportunity right in front of me, but I failed to seize it. Yang Kai was vexed with himself. No words could express the consternation he felt. 9 top-quality open heaven pills had been right in front of him, each one representing a new 9th order open heaven realm master, and yet, he did not even manage to grab a single one. Yang Kai was agitated, and as he had been injured by the pressure from the powerful energy earlier, he ended up coughing up a mouthful of golden blood. Even his aura noticeably weakened. He stood in place to restore himself for a moment as he looked around him with a frown. What the hell is going on? Since the universe furnace has already appeared, why am I still inside of it? Shouldn't I have been flung out of here the same way the open heaven pills were? What's more, the universe furnace seems too vast. By now, Yang Kai was starting to realize that all his theories had been wrong from the start. The inside of the universe furnace turned out to be an independent space, and there was no proof that the open heaven pills had been ejected out of it. So, perhaps the opportunity to seize one of them doesn't occur outside, but rather inside the universe furnace. Yang Kai would be able to confirm this theory soon enough. If he encountered other living beings inside the universe furnace, then it meant the opportunity took place inside. Yang Kai gathered himself and moved in the direction where the dazzling light had flown. Even though it had escaped from him earlier, he was still going to hunt it down. At this point, he found that his earlier efforts had not been for nothing. Although the aura of the great sun and moon marks that he left on the 9 open heaven pills previously could not help him when it came to controlling them, he could use the marks to ascertain where the pills were, though he could only do so if he was close enough. Yang Kai became a lot calmer now. There was a benefit to being pulled into the universe furnace early after all. During the chase, Yang Kai also found the time to check on the weak, glimmering lights he had captured. He had slightly over a dozen of them, and they were currently flying around his small universe. They looked like shooting stars streaking across the sky, and the many cultivators inside Void World were staring up at them in amazement. Some of the Tao Temple disciples with greater cultivation tried to chase after these lights, but none of them succeeded. These weaker lights still moved at incredible speeds. Yang Kai used space principles to capture them, but the Emperor Realm Masters from the Tao Temple did not have such ability. They thought this was some kind of amazing opportunity and had no idea these were just something their Tao Lord had tossed into his small universe, as he did not have the time to bother with them. Soon, Yang Kai gathered the scattered lights together and subdued them. The lights faded away, and several fragrant, flawlessly round spirit pills appeared in front of him. Upon closer inspection, these open heaven pills were fairly similar to the ones Yang Kai got from the blood monster cave heaven, but their medicinal efficacies were clearly much more potent. What are they for? Yang Kai frowned. Don't tell me these open heaven pills can help those in the 8th order break through to the 9th order as well? If that was the case, the fact that he now had over a dozen of them meant there were going to be over a dozen new 9th order open heaven realm masters, but there was no way that was possible. The reason humans knew how to create open heaven pills was because the great experts of the early ancient era had derived a recipe for them based on the innate open heaven pills they obtained from the universe furnace. Although modifications and improvements to the open heaven pill recipe had never ceased, the ones refined by human alchemists were still incomparable to the ones from the universe furnace. There was only one benefit to the ones the humans made. Those open heaven pills were easy enough to create, and as long as there were sufficient resources and alchemists available, the production could go on forever. Nearly every sect had its own way of creating these man-made open heaven pills to fuel their disciples' cultivation. Yang Kai had also refined some open heaven pills many millennia ago when he first entered the 3000 worlds. After all the cultivation and resources he had acquired since then, it felt as if this memory of his took place eons ago. Once again, Yang Kai gathered his thoughts. He created a seal on the open heaven pills and put them away safely. No matter what they were for, they had come from the universe furnace and thus could not be something simple. He would know whether or not they were useful once he brought them to senior brother Mi and asked the latter about them. Yang Kai then continued chasing after the dazzling lights while occasionally using the great sun and moon marks to see if he could sense anything nearby. As the interior of the universe furnace rattled and shook, the over a dozen illusory phantoms of it that had been solidifying for the past 2 years finally transformed into the universe furnace, which was a grand and majestic alchemy furnace that gave off a mysterious, ancient aura with complex lines circulating across its surface. These universe furnaces were not the true body though, merely portals to the world inside of it. As if breathing, the universe furnace would occasionally disperse a wondrous aura from its entrances. If anyone was able to cultivate near the furnace opening, they would receive a lot of benefits. However, who would be thinking of cultivating by the opening when the universe furnace had emerged? It was more important to enter the universe furnace for opportunities. Outside the primordial heaven's source grand restriction, the many years of peace gave way to battle once more. The Black Ink clan inside the grand restriction knew that the universe furnace was a great opportunity for the humans, so to stop the suppressing Black Ink army from entering, the Black Ink clan was willing to do whatever it took to launch an attack on them, forcing the various masters to remain behind to hold the line. A 100,000-meter-long white dragon weaved through the fighting, killing dozens, if not hundreds with each blow he struck, but soon, 2 royal lords made huge sacrifices to rush out of the gap in the grand restriction and pin him down. Royal lords were heavily injured if they tried to leave the primordial heaven's source grand restriction through the opening Wu Kuang had made. Previously, Fu Guang killed several royal lords who had been affected this way, so the enemy knew that in a one-on-one fight, these royal lords were no match for him, but it was not as easy for him to kill them when he was up against 2 of them at once. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,